Can we start, honorable members of the committee? We start. As you know, and you all participated yesterday at the discussions, we succeeded in approving and discussing the documents of the files. We managed to look through 24 files. Now we have to start the left 10 nominations. But honorable delegates, if you permit me, I will start today with not a little bit, really serious and sad information. You know that we are discussing today heritage sites. We discussed the matters concerned with the history of the human being, and we must always remember that the human's history also consists of the intangible heritage. And we always pay tribute to the personalities, to the people who gave a great impact to the history of the art, including music. This night we got very sad information concerning a world-class Brazilian musician who was born in Juazeiro, internationally known since 50s. He had very long career in music. He's played with the great musicians and composed songs that nowadays known in the world very well. The father of the musical style Bossa Nova, João Gilberto, passed away during this night. In the view of his success through more generations, his work as an expression of contemporary musical heritage, his death is a big loss for the culture of humanity. We have a proposal on behalf of the Bureau members to commemorate him by 1 minute standing. Please. God bless and let him rest in peace. Thank you. Honorable members of the committee, we now start the discussion with the file number 8B. So, Brazil, please welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would like to express, in the name of the Brazilian government and in the name of the Brazilian people, our appreciation for your most considerable gesture of solidarity on the occasion of this great loss for Brazil. The Brazilian people is in grief for the passing away of João Gilberto, one of the most outstanding musicians of our country, the father of Bossa Nova, a unique musical style internationally known. João Gilberto leaves Brazil and the world a legacy of beauty, poetry, and lyricism that touched the hearts of people in Brazil and in all parts of the world. So thank you very much once again, you personally and all the members of this committee, for this most considerate gesture. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We start now the discussion on the item 43.8b.30, and I would like to invite Icomos to present the nomination, but before that I give the floor to Secretariat Balsamo to give our information about the Mafra Palace, Basilica, Convent, Cerco Garden and Hunting Park in Tapada, Portugal.
Thank you, Chair. Just to remind the committee that we received a factual error notification concerning the evaluation of the nomination Royal Building of Mafra, Palace, Basilica, Convent, Cerco Garden and Hunting Park, Tapada. And this notification is on page 96 of the English document of INF 8b4 and on page 89 of the French version of the same document. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Icomos, you're welcome for presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The Icomos evaluation of this property can be found at page 284 of the English version and 362 of the French versions of document INF.8b1. Conceived by King João V at the beginning of the 18th century as a tangible representation of his idea of the monarchy and of the state, the nominated property encompasses an imposing quadrangular edifice, the royal building, a garden, and a large landscape area, the Tapada. The nominated property is located some 40 kilometers northwest of Lisbon and 8 kilometers inland of the Atlantic coast. Through the nomination process, the buffer zone has been enlarged and may be more consistent with the protection needs of Mafra. The royal building houses the king and the queen's palace, the royal chapel shaped like a Roman Baroque basilica, a convent for 300 friars with an infirmary and apothecary, a library still preserving 36,000 volumes from the Portuguese king's collection. The palatial complex is completed by the Cerco Garden, a formally designed garden, and by the Royal Hunting Park Tapada, a multifunctional landscape supplying a variety of resources for the operation of the palace. The construction of the complex started as early as 1717 and was mostly completed by 1735, although some parts were still under construction at King João's death in 1750. The building continued to be embellished with sculptures, paintings, and the organs in the church until the outbreak of the Peninsular War. The property has been nominated under 4 criteria, criterion 1, 2, 4, and 6, as an exceptional representation of King João's fifth conception of the monarchy, in which each social component had its role. The aristocracy, represented by the royal residences, the church, illustrated by the basilica, and the people, represented by the convent, all gathered in one single building. King João's fifth ideological program is reflected in the layout of the building, in the Rome's Baroque architectural language, in its multifunctionality, and particularly in the infirmary, in the library, and the school that reflect the importance according to health and education by the king. A wealth of research, particularly focused on the palace, has been deployed to support the nomination, despite the loss of archival resources on Mafra. The state party has benefited from the evaluation process. The augmented comparative analysis has been able to demonstrate that there is room for the royal building of Mafra on the voltage list, even though a number of royal residents are already listed, in particular for the presence of the tapada, the boundaries of which remained unchanged since its establishment. However, according to Icomos panel, not sufficient information had been presented in the dossier and in the additional information on the tapada, and so a substantial increase of documentation on this key element of this nomination would be needed to support the justification for inscription and guarantees adequate management as a cultural landscape. Icomos considers that only criterion 4 has the potential to be justified by the royal building, the Cerco garden, and the tapada altogether. Criterion 1 focused mainly on architectural elements of the royal building, and the expanded comparative analysis was not able to support this criterion for the whole of the property. The arguments presented to support criterion 2 also focused primarily on the royal buildings and the information provided throughout the nomination process did not suggest that the garden and the tapada could contribute to support the criterion. The arguments presented to justify criterion 6 can contribute to strengthen and complement the justification of the other criterion 4, rather than support criterion 6. The condition of integrity and authenticity to be fully demonstrated would require additional documentation to be presented on the heritage feature of the tapada, particularly of the tapada. The boundaries after the modification proposed by the state party to the buffer zone are now adequate and the legal protection is in place. Conservation is overall adequate but can be improved, especially in some specific areas of the property. And an integrated conservation program should be further elaborated. In February 2019, an updated collaboration protocol has been signed by all responsible bodies, and it represents a first commendable step to achieve a coherent vision for the whole of the property, which need to be accompanied by an integrated management system. To sum up, Icomos recommends that the nominated property is referred back to the state party to develop a landscape study and cartographic inventory of the tapada heritage feature, to strengthen the management system of the tapada from a cultural perspective, and develop a more robust management system for the whole of the property. And there are a few additional information for consideration by the state party. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. So we have the nomination. May I have asked honorable members of the committee to opinion? Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I would like to thank the advisory bodies for their report, and adding that for Brazil, after the evaluation of this nomination by the Brazilian National Heritage Institute, we concluded that this nomination have solid grounds to be inscribed in the World Heritage List. According to the Icomos report we have just heard, there is a high degree of authenticity of the location and set, form and design, materials and substance in the Mafra building complex. The property exhibits remarkable specificities and includes all the elements that reflect its significance. The boundaries, so sorry. I'm so sorry, we had a small technical problem with our... One moment, please. Thank you very much. According to the analysis made by our national advisory bodies, the site qualifies fully for inscription under Criterion 4. I would ask you then, Mr. President, to consider the draft amendment the Brazilian delegation has proposed with this recommendation of inscription of the site under Criterion 4, and this draft amendment also incorporate all the recommendations that have been made by UNESCO's advisory bodies. I would very much like, Mr. President, to ask you at this right point to pass the floor to the distinguished delegation of Portugal to present to all the members of this committee some further comments and clarifications on this nomination. Thank you very much.
I think, according to the rules of procedure, we have a right to give the floor to the honorable state party. Please, you're welcome, Portugal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the honor of addressing this committee once again. I thank the Ambassador of Brazil for her statement on this inscription. We strongly believe, as she does, that Mafra meets all the conditions to be inscribed. Concerning the authenticity and integrity of the property, Icomos recognizes that they have been demonstrated. Icomos further recognizes that there is room for Mafra on the World Heritage List. Concerning the criteria, we believe that the criteria we propose are correct because we wish to inscribe a building of obvious outstanding value that has a garden and a hunting ground attached to it, not the other way around, that is, a hunting ground with a palace and church attached to them, as Icomos suggests. But we can accept, Mr. Chairman, criteria 4 in line with what Icomos proposed. On a wider perspective, Mr. Chairman, I would like to recall that Portugal has not submitted a candidature to the World Heritage List for the last 8 years. We did this for reasons of principle, as we were members of this committee for half of this time, but also because we have at heart the credibility of these processes and of the Convention itself. I say this to underline that any candidature Portugal may present will be the result exclusively of our deep conviction that we are dealing indeed with a property of exceptional cultural and historical value, and that the dossier has been prepared in a very serious and scrupulous way, supported by significant scientific knowledge, as Icomos recognizes in this case. Otherwise, Mr. Chairman, Portugal would not present such a dossier. I do believe this property should be inscribed, and I wish to assure Icomos and the Centre, whose advice we very much value, and all committee members, that the recommendations included in the evaluation report of any Portuguese inscribed property will be carried out in full and in a credible way. As far as the Palace of Mafra and its grounds are concerned, the implementation of all recommendations has already started, and some have already been completed. I thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Tunisia, please.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais commencer par une remarque de procédure, si vous me le permettez. Le fait de donner la parole à l'État partie en début de discussion peut-être priverait les autres États membres du comité de poser des questions et de demander des clarifications, parce que je ne verrai pas qu'on donne à plusieurs fois la réponse à l'État partie pour des clarifications supplémentaires. Mais quoi qu'il en soit, je crois que nous sommes devant un dossier de grande qualité et je voudrais remercier l'État partie d'avoir mené un travail qualitatif et de remercier Icomos de nous avoir éclairés par un certain nombre de remarques. Je me félicite de voir l'État partie se rallier à l'avis d'Icomos pour une inscription sur le critère déjà vérifié actuellement, à savoir le critère 4, ce qui est une convergence à la fois sur l'avis ou vers l'avis des experts et également permet d'avoir une décision solide de ce comité, mais j'aurais aimé, mais je parle là vraiment dans le sens de je ne sais pas si on va avoir la possibilité, avoir une précision de l'État partie sur ces démarches, puisqu'on les a entendus dire qu'une partie des éléments requis ont été déjà soit totalement mis en place, soit déjà en bonne partie sur ce qui a été fait en matière d'inventaire cartographique des caractéristiques patrimoniales de la Tapada. C'est un élément, je crois, important pour que le comité sache si cette décision peut être prise dans la direction de l'amendement proposé par le Brésil. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much. Norway, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to you all. Today, as yesterday, Norway chooses to listen very carefully to the recommendations given by the advisory bodies and the World Heritage Centre and to support the draft decision. We still find it essential to respect the referral mechanism as a checking point towards inscription and the final approval of the OUE, as referred to in paragraph 51, 77 and 78 of the operational guidelines. In this case, however, we will and we cannot go against the consensus. Thank you.
Thank you very much. China, please.
Thank you, Chair. China appreciates the assessment of Icomos, and we, first of all, we fully concur with our distinguished ambassador of Brazil has put forward and echoed by Tunisia and others. China considers that Icomos itself has already considered that the justification for inscription is soundly argued in the nomination, and that it is supported by a significant amount of research and documentation. Furthermore, Icomos recognizes that the revised answers expanded the comparative analysis that has been carried out have demonstrated that this property has its place in the World Heritage List. It is on those grounds that we are delighted that the state party has assured us that the recommendations pertaining to this property will be fully implemented. China therefore considers that this royal building of Mafra should be inscribed during the present session of our committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Uganda, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Uganda fully associates itself with the position expressed by the delegation of Brazil and other distinguished speakers before me. We wish to underscore the fact that Icomos appreciates the soundly argued narrative of the property's nomination dossier. Icomos further acknowledges that the inscription of this property is justified. We also take note of the commitment of the state party to implement the Icomos recommendations. On the basis of these positive signals, Mr. Chairman, my delegation is also convinced that rather than the proposed referral status, this property should be inscribed on the World Heritage List. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Tanzania, please.
Thank you, Chair. Tanzania thanks the state party for this nomination, and it also commends Icomos for a thorough analysis and its recommendation on this nomination. However, Tanzania wishes to get clarification from Icomos why criteria 4 cannot be used to inscribe the property, if I heard properly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Azerbaijan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Azerbaijan thanks the Icomos and the state party for the work and the prepared dossier. My delegation also supports the statement made by delegation of Brasilia on the justification of the criteria for the inscription. We believe that this exceptional site and Icomos recognize this, that fits to the criteria for the inscription. But at the same time, my delegation also supports the recommendation of the advisory body of the Icomos to develop a more robust management system for the site, as well as conservation program. So with this in mind, Azerbaijan supports the amendments proposed by Brazil. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guatemala, please.
Gracias, señor presidente. Queremos agradecer la evaluación técnica tan detallada realizada por Icomos y valoramos la calidad de la nominación preparada por Portugal sobre este destacado complejo histórico y arquitectónico. Después de realizar nuestras propias evaluaciones, coincidimos con los miembros del comité sobre los valores excepcionales de la propiedad y tomando en consideración lo expresado por el delegado de Portugal, se cuentan con elementos para identificar el compromiso del Estado parte para la implementación de las recomendaciones, las cuales serían atendidas para garantizar la protección de esta propiedad. No cabe duda sobre la calidad del expediente y de los elementos que respaldan la inscripción del sitio en la lista de Patrimonio Mundial. Tomando en consideración la información disponible y para promover una actuación consistente por parte de este comité respecto de otras decisiones que han sido adoptadas en esta misma reunión, Guatemala apoya la enmienda propuesta por Brasil para la inscripción del sitio bajo el criterio 4, instando al Estado parte a continuar trabajando en la implementación de las recomendaciones del órgano consultivo. Gracias.
Thank you. Bosnia, please.
La délégation de Bosnie soutient la proposition de Brésil. Nous sommes toujours très heureux d'avoir sous les yeux une proposition aussi bien préparée. Il s'agit donc de remercier à la délégation et aux experts de Brésil et de l'UNESCO qui nous ont préparé une proposition si complète. Nous soutenons aussi la proposition de donner toujours la parole aux pays concernés pour qu'ils nous expliquent au départ, pour faciliter notre travail, s'il y a des malentendus, s'il y a des choses à éclaircir pour rendre notre travail plus efficace. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Angola, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous voulons ici reconnaître le travail accompli par l'État partie, également l'évaluation faite par l'Icomos. Si nous regardons, disons, l'avis qui nous est proposé, l'avis de renvoi, si nous considérons les renvois, c'est-à-dire que le bien a un potentiel pour être inscrit, c'est-à-dire qu'en termes de critères, le bien satisfait quelques critères. Et notamment en écoutant l'Icomos, nous sommes tout à fait d'accord que les critères 4 soient considérés pour inscrire ces biens sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Toutefois, comme il y avait des réserves, et d'ailleurs l'avis de renvoi le justifie, que le pays devrait fournir un certain nombre d'éléments additionnels pour pouvoir justement compléter et valider, disons, la valeur universelle exceptionnelle du bien. Et en écoutant l'État partie, ils viennent de confirmer que certainement ces éléments ont été présentés donc à l'Icomos. Donc en croisant ces deux informations de l'Icomos et de l'État partie, donc nous sommes tout à fait dans la position d'appuyer donc l'inscription de ces biens sur la liste du patrimoine mondial. Toutefois, nous reviendrons quand nous allons regarder le projet d'amendement présenté par le Brésil pour peut-être apporter d'autres contributions additionnelles. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Icomos, please, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I have understood correctly, we have a question from the Honorable Delegate of Tanzania for Icomos concerning why Icomos does not consider that criterion 4 has been met yet. Icomos panel had a long, extensive discussion about the property, and particularly this referral back is related to the fact that the PADA has been found as the key element for this nomination, for this royal complex to be inscribed on the list in the future with this additional documentation. We have a beautifully documented royal building, extensively, precisely. It has been a pleasure for all Icomos panel members to read, but it has been found that the TAPADA has not been so adequately documented. We don't have enough information, and considering the key role played by the TAPADA, according to Icomos' view, in the recognition of this property within other royal residence for this specific park, which has remained almost within its boundaries, original boundaries. It's very specific. That's why Icomos considered not possible for the time being to proceed with a recommendation for inscription. I hope I have clarified our position, Mr.
Thank you very much. Brazil, please.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank Icomos for this further explanation on the concerning the Tapada, the hunting park. I would like to say that for us, first of all, Mafra was not nominated as a cultural landscape, but as a royal building with all its estate. Secondly, we do not see how further graphic documentation on the hunting park would be so essential for the inscription. The state part provided a detailed description accompanied by ancient and modern maps and photos of the park and its heritage features. Furthermore, the park in its entirety is within the boundaries of the property and is protected by a range of surrounding buffer zones. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Indonesia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indonesia would like to thank advisory body for its thorough evaluation of the royal building of Mafra and commend the state party for preparing a comprehensive nomination of the unique and exceptional ensemble of multifunctional building and gardens. Indonesia understands that the advisory body considered the property as a site based on the categories of cultural property set out in the Article 1 of the 1972 World Heritage Convention and agrees that the property meets criteria 4. Operational guideline define criteria 4 as an outstanding example of a type of building, architectural or technological ensemble or landscape which illustrate significant stages in human history. After following the discussion and considering the additional information as well as the commitment of the state party, Indonesia considered that the royal building of Mafra qualifies all the requirements to be inscribed in the World Heritage List. However, Indonesia encouraged the state party to conduct landscape study and cartographic inventory in order to enhance the attribute of the outstanding universal value of the property. Indonesia would like to join other members to support the amendment of draft decision proposed by Brazil. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Zimbabwe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Zimbabwe fully supports the statement of the distinguished ambassador for Brazil and other distinguished representatives who have spoken before me. We understand that Icomos itself considers that the dossier of this nomination is soundly argued in terms of its inscription and that the state party has done a significant amount of research and provided documentation supporting this objective. Icomos also considered that the revised and expanded comparative analysis demonstrates that this property has its place in the World Heritage List. We have just received assurance from the state party concerning the full application of the recommendation made by the advisory bodies concerning this property. For these reasons, we consider that this property should be inscribed under Criterion 4. We, however, urge the state party to seriously consider the recommendations of the advisory body in the management of the property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Australia, please.
Good morning, Chair. Australia would also like to agree with Icomos that we feel that although Criterion 4 has been justified for the royal building of Mafra, we agree with Icomos that the contribution of the Tapahada to the values of the property under Criterion 4 does need further substantiation. However, we feel that there's a consensus in the room towards inscription, and we can agree with that consensus given the amendments provided by Brazil under paragraph 4, which specifically require further landscape study. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, let me thank the advisory board for the great report, and regarding the draft amendment submitted by Brazil, we supported, especially after we heard the advisory report for 2 times and the commitment of the state party and how the dossier was really fully prepared, and a lot of the documents was clarified according to the extra information we received. So again, we want to support the draft amendment submitted by Brazil.
Thank you very much. So we have to revise the draft decision, which was supplied to us from Brazil and supported now during the interventions. So may I ask the rapporteur, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As heard, Brazil has provided us with proposed amendments, and that's been supported by many in the room. The first paragraph would remain unchanged. The second would read, inscribes the royal building of Mafra, palace, basilica, convent, circo garden and hunting park, Tapada, Portugal, on the World Heritage List on the basis of Criterion 4. The next recommended subparagraphs have all been moved to further in the document, so although they're marked as absent from here, they moved down after the paragraph 3, which takes note of the following provisional statement of outstanding universal value, which follows. Then the former paragraph 3 would now become paragraph 4, and those first 3 subparagraphs from the original 2 have been inserted here with amendments to reflect the language changes, and a change in 4b, which would read, using the information above to reinforce the management of the cultural dimension of the Tapada, deleting landscape there. Then the following amendments are to reflect that it would be an inscription, and there's a new paragraph 5, which reads, requests the state party to submit to the World Heritage Centre by 1 February 2020 a report on the implementation of the above-mentioned recommendations for examination by the World Heritage Committee at its 44th session in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments on the proposed draft decision? Any amendments? Any changes? May I apply to the honourable members of the committee whether should we proceed with this draft in whole or paragraph by paragraph? If I don't see any objections, Angola, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Moi, je voulais peut-être écouter l'Icomos. Si on l'inscrit sur les critères 4, donc toute la dimension paysage devrait quand même, disons, être revue. Je sais pas. Je pense que là, il y a quand même peut-être certains éléments qui devaient être revus. par rapport au critère qui a été choisi. Si c'est le 4, est-ce que la dimension paysagère devrait continuer à être prise en compte, disons, dans les recommandations? C'est vraiment une question. J'aimerais avoir des précisions là-dessus. Merci.
Icomos, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. Well, Icomos considered originally that the tapada was important and need for the nomination and for the justification of the property to be inscribed, and the insufficient documentation was a gap that needed to be covered. And that's why that the recommendation concerning develop certain type of studies, considering the archival documentation being insufficient, so to carry out on-site studies to document this was necessary, and that's why this recommendation. If the committee considered that the landscape dimension, the tapada, as a part of this big complex is relevant, as Icomos thinks, the recommendation concerning the landscape need to be kept. But that depends on the decision of the committee members.
Thank you. So we leave this item here as recommended.
Yeah, maybe give it to the rapporteur.
Rapporteur, please.
He will explain on the landscape study.
Just to explain that paragraph 4A does still require a landscape study, although the reference to landscape's been removed from paragraph B.
I think that it reflects the requirements from some delegations, and we can proceed with the whole text, if you don't mind. If so, the item 43.8b 30 declared adopted as new version. Let me congratulate the State Party with the inscription of this very important site. And now we're again returning to the next item, also connected with the Portuguese nomination. Item 8b.31, Sanctuary of Bom Jesus de Monte in Braga. May I ask Alessandro Balsamo to proceed? Sorry. Portugal, the floor is yours. Sorry, I'm really sorry, because I was again turning to Portugal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a moment of a very important moment for us, and because heritage is not our past, it's our present, and it's the future. If we accomplish our duty, in the name of Portugal, I want to thank our friends from Brazil. Muito obrigado. As well as other members of the committee and Icomos and UNESCO. Your work has been of the most importance for us, and all the recommendations approved will be taken into consideration and effectively implemented. Our humanity can be illustrated with two words: books and music. In books you find knowledge and science. In music you find art and creativity. The royal building of Mafra is an extraordinary example of architecture and landscape, full with books and music, with an extraordinary library and wonderful organs and carillons. In times of artificial intelligence, we need, more than ever, cultural intelligence, intelligence with sensibility, with human sensibility, with human awareness. We are very grateful for your decision to inscribe Mafra, a place of culture, of science, of arts, in the World Heritage List. Thank you very much. And now, please allow me to give the floor to the Mayor of Mafra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The Mayor of Mafra wants to share the proud, the honor, and the recognition felt by the community of Mafra and all the partners of this project concerning the inscription of the royal building of Mafra in the UNESCO World Heritage List. It is a historic moment for Mafra and for Portugal, of course, but above all, a future commitment for all the parts involved in this project. For Mafra, this recognition by UNESCO is not a point of arrival, but a starting point for a collective awareness of the increased protection of the property, deep respect for our common heritage, but by the role it plays in the community. We hope this recognition will reinforce the full public enjoyment of the site and the introduction of new dynamics, positioning it as a meeting place for all the people of the world. A special thank to the Executive Committee and all those who directly or indirectly collaborated with this application since more than 10 years ago when we started this challenge. Finally, we have the pleasure to invite all those present to visit the royal building of Mafra. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you very much, and we once more congratulate you on the occasion of inscription. And now again we return to Portugal. So, Alessandro Balsamo, can you give this clarification on this item?
Thank you, Chair. We received a fatal error notification concerning the evaluation of the nomination sanctuary of Bom Jesus do Monte in Braga. And this notification is on page 110 of the English version of document in faith before, and on page 105 of the French version of the same document. Thank you.
Icomos, please. You're welcome.
Thank you, Chair. The Icomos evaluation can be found at page 297 of the English version and page 376 of the French version of document 43com inf 8b1. The sanctuary of Bom Jesus do Monte in Braga is a cultural landscape located on the steep slopes of Mount Espinho overlooking the city of Braga in the north of Portugal. It is a landscape and architectural ensemble constituting a sacred mount symbolically recreating the landscape of Christian Jerusalem and portraying the elaborate narrative of the Passion of Christ, the period in the life of Jesus from his entry to Jerusalem through to his crucifixion. Developed over a period of more than 600 years, the ensemble is focused on a long and complex Via Crucis, or Way of the Cross, which leads up the mount's western slope. The elaborate set of stone stairs and paths is interposed with a series of chapels that house sculptural collections evoking the Passion of Christ, as well as fountains, allegorical sculptures, and formal gardens. The Via Crucis culminates at the church at the top of the mount, where the main altar features a representation of the Calvary, being the site where Jesus was crucified. The nominated property illustrates a European tradition of creating sacramonti, or sacred mounts. This was a concept initially promoted by the Catholic Church's Council of Trent in the 16th century in reaction to the Protestant Reformation. These sacred mounts were subsequently realised at many locations in Europe and beyond. The sanctuary in Braga, carried out primarily in a Baroque style and surrounded by a lush park and woodland, is a relatively early, extensive and unified version that reflects the grand religious narrative typical of the Church's counter-Reformation endeavours. Icomos considers that the comparative analysis justifies consideration of this property for the World Heritage List. The state party nominated the property under criteria 2 and 4. Icomos considers that the nominated property meets criterion 4, but does not consider that criterion 2 has been justified. The documented influence of the nominated property appears to have been limited to an important property in Brazil, Bom Jesus de Congonhas, as well as later sanctuaries in Portugal. However, details of this influence and the role of the property as a model for other examples of sanctuaries in the world are lacking, and overall the interchange does not meet the level of outstanding universal value. The proposed boundaries and buffer zone are adequate. Icomos considers that the requirements of integrity have been met, but the requirements of authenticity have not been met at this stage. The form and design of the ensemble have evolved over a period of centuries, and there is only a limited understanding about what currently remains of the landscape's planting historical design or substance and its related meaning. The requirements for protection and management are not fully adequate at this stage. In the case of the landscape, the apparent limited understanding of the landscape's attributes related to the original or historical design and their meaning is not satisfactory. In addition, improvements should be made regarding documentation, institutional arrangements for fire prevention and firefighting, and monitoring of visitor impacts. The state of conservation is generally good, following about 20 years of continuous work on the conservation and restoration of the property. Our current major conservation project is still to be completed, and some areas of the property still require attention. A further phase of work is planned for the future, and funding should be secured to undertake this work in a timely manner. The main pressures affecting the property are urban expansion or development, fire and visitor pressures. With regard to monitoring, the overall approach is generally satisfactory. However, additional indicators are required regarding the woodland and to address threats to the property. Icomos recommends that the nominated property be referred back to the state party to allow it to complete a landscape study on the history of the woodland, parks and gardens of the Sacred Mount in order to provide a greater understanding of the meaning of the vegetation and landscape to the sacred place, and to develop a more complete and detailed understanding of the selection of plants, as well as alterations to the species and layout of these attributes over time, supplementing the landscape attributes based on this work, and using this information to update management planning for the landscape. The draft decision, including additional recommendations, can be found at page 45 of the working document WHC 1943.com 8b. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I ask for the comments from the honourable committee members? I don't. Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to commend Portugal for proposing this outstanding property. In some circles, it is also called the father of Bom Jesus de Congonhas, which is a property in Brazil already inscribed on the World Heritage List. So we are very much attached to this property. Would like to also thank Icomos for its report. As we could hear, there are only a few issues that remain to be verified for its inscription on the World Heritage List. We would like to tackle two issues regarding authenticity and protection and management, since we, from Icomos' report, in terms of integrity, criteria, comparative analysis, and so on and so forth, this nomination has met the necessary requirements. With regard to authenticity, though in terms of form and design, the ensemble has evolved, we believe that perhaps the qualities such as function, location, setting, and especially the spirit of the property remained quite unchanged in the last 2 centuries, and in that sense, we strongly believe that there is a case for authenticity for the present for this property. And in terms of management and protection, the additional information provided by the state party leads us to the conclusion that the overall protection and management are adequate, even though there is room for improvement. And in that sense, we believe that the recommendations of Icomos should be kept in the decision and should be requested to the state party to implement those recommendations, but that should not hinder its inscription on the World Heritage List at this stage. Therefore, Mr. Chairman, we propose that this property be inscribed on the World Heritage List at the present session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Tunisia, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. La Tunisie voudrait d'abord remercier Icomos pour le rapport qui nous a été fourni sur ce dossier et l'État partie de l'avoir instruit de cette qualité et à ce niveau de précision et un niveau scientifique à saluer. Nous soulignons le fait que dans le rapport UNESCO, d'Icomos, il y a vérification du critère 4 et je souhaiterais, Monsieur le Président, si vous permettez, qu'on demande à l'État partie si une inscription sur la base de critère 4 seulement, comme on l'a fait pour le dossier précédent, pourrait convenir pour l'État partie. En tout état de cause, nous trouvons que ce dossier offre des éléments extrêmement importants, précieux sur une période importante de l'histoire et un état de conservation déjà de haut niveau. Nous souhaiterions également savoir si l'État partie pourrait nous fournir des informations sur les démarches de son inscription sur la liste des monuments nationaux. Et également, qu'est-ce qui est envisagé en vue de juguler l'expansion et le développement urbain autour du site, ainsi que ce qui a été prévu si une inscription advienne sur l'impact d'un accroissement raisonnablement croissant du tourisme sur ce site. Nous souhaiterions savoir quelles sont déjà les dispositions prises par l'État partie par rapport à ces deux points importants sur l'équilibre global de ce dossier. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Spain, please.
Sí, gracias, presidente. La delegación española se adhiere a la intervención de Brasil en el sentido de que consideramos que este bien debería ser inscrito en la lista, por cuanto las dos cuestiones que Icomos señala, por ser más concreta, respecto a referir la candidatura, ya han sido justificadas por el Estado parte, es más, están en marcha actualmente y en ese sentido nos gustaría que el Estado parte, por cuanto está aquí, nos pudiera dar información sobre estas dos cuestiones que podríamos inscribir, como digo, el sitio y que esas dos cuestiones que ya están en marcha pudieran ser incluidas como recomendación para que prosiguieran los trabajos. En cuanto a la delegación de Túnez, que ha mencionado el tema jurídico que a esta delegación le preocupa especialmente, es decir, si este sitio ha sido declarado Monumento Nacional ya, hemos tenido ocasión de hablarlo también con la delegación de Portugal y nos gustaría también que en esa intervención el Estado parte lo señalara. Y creemos que es un sistema igual que el de España, que cuando se inician los procedimientos para inscribir un sitio como bien de interés cultural con el máximo grado de protección, ya en ese mismo procedimiento ya tiene el máximo grado de protección. Así que nos gustaría, presidente, que le diera la palabra al Estado parte para explicar todas estas cuestiones y que se pudiera inscribir el sitio si al resto de los miembros del comité le convencen las justificaciones que puede dar el Estado. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Azerbaijan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Azerbaijan thanks the Icomos and the State Party for the cooperation on this nomination. And as Icomos recognized in its recommendation, this site is an outstanding example of the landscape and architectural ensemble, illustrating the counter-reformation in the Catholic Church in Europe. So with this in mind, we believe that this site justifies the inscription to the World Heritage List based on the criterion 4. But I would like to ask to give the floor to the state party to respond to the recommendations of the Icomos with regard to the landscape study as well as the management plan of the landscape. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that we will give the floor to the state party after the intervention of the committee members because they may come some other additional questions. Angola, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Nous félicitons l'État partie pour un deuxième dossier assez intéressant qu'ils ont présenté pour inscription et également, disons, l'évaluation faite par l'Icomos qui nous semble être logique et pratique. D'ailleurs, ils sont d'accord que ces biens soient inscrits sous les critères 4. Et également, ils sont tout à fait d'accord que les détails sur l'intégrité sont pris en compte, ainsi que l'analyse comparative. Toutefois, ils émettent quelques réserves concernant l'authenticité et la partie gestion et protection. Donc, nous sommes d'avis que le bien soit inscrit, tout en demandant à l'État partie de pouvoir clarifier également s'ils se sentent préparés pour mettre en œuvre les recommandations concernant la dimension paysagère du bien et également de nous apporter des éléments additionnels par rapport à la protection et à la gestion. Merci.
Thank you very much. Tanzania, please.
Thank you, Chair. Tanzania thanks the State Party for coming up with this wonderful nomination. Tanzania also commends Icomos for the thorough analysis on its recommendation and the conclusions. Chair, reading from the analysis and evaluation of Icomos, we read that the attributes of the proposed outstanding universal values are well defined. The state of conservation is in good quality. The comparative analysis is justified, but also the nominated property meets criteria 4 and 2. The nominated area retains all attributes that support the proposed outstanding universal value of the property, and that the requirements of integrity have been met. Conservation measures are adequate, and the monitoring system approach is satisfactory. Chair, the inadequacies that have been identified by Icomos could be part of the recommendation while the site is inscribed. Tanzania therefore goes in line with other distinguished delegates who have proposed to inscribe this property under criteria 4 and 2. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Guatemala, please.
Gracias, señor presidente. Agradecemos una vez más la calidad del expediente preparado por el Estado parte y el profundo análisis realizado por el órgano consultivo. El Santuario del Buen Jesús del Monte de Braga constituye un paisaje cultural de destacado valor religioso que ha sido desarrollado durante más de 600 años y además incluye otros elementos relevantes como los restos arqueológicos de época romana que nos muestran una destacada continuidad en el uso religioso de este espacio. Aspectos inmateriales que nos ofrecen la oportunidad de reconocer el valor patrimonial de manera integral con una importante carga simbólica. Icomos ha identificado en su análisis a través del estudio comparativo se justifica la inscripción del sitio en la lista bajo el criterio 4, que cuenta con un estado de conservación e integridad apropiados, así como con las medidas de que las medidas de protección son favorables para preservar el BUE que ha sido identificado. Coincidimos con otros estados parte sobre respecto de las consideraciones para la inscripción del sitio en la lista y también agradeceríamos que Portugal pueda informarnos sobre las medidas que se han implementado y los planes previstos para atender las recomendaciones del órgano consultivo. En todo caso, Guatemala desea expresar que apoya la enmienda presentada por Brasil. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Hungary, please.
Thank you very much, the Chair. The property in question surely is a very important place and deserves to be a World Heritage Site. However, Hungary thinks that the Icomos evaluation is right and well-based, saying and proposing a reversal of the nomination to the state party. At the same time, Hungary will be not against the consensus of the committee members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kuwait, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, let me thank Portugal for the great files being submitted and also the advisory board for the very clear and good report that's been submitted. This is an example, I think, of a file. If we had an earlier dialogue between the state parties and the advisory board, I think a lot of the recommendation and requirements, it's very minor or continuation of the study. I think that this file has more dialogue before the final report. I think it will be ready for inscription. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Zimbabwe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Zimbabwe notes that the sanctuary of Bom Jesus do Monte in Braga is a property of exceptional value, as the Icomos itself recognizes, and the comparative analysis fully justifies consideration for its World Heritage listing. The only seemingly shortcoming raised in the evaluation report has to do with what is considered to be limited understanding of the landscape, its origin and history. We don't share this perspective. On the contrary, we think that substantial information which has been provided by the state party at different moments of this process gives us sufficient understanding of the history, of the historical origin of this property. Concerning the different recommendations contained in the report, we have been assured by the state party of their full implementation, so Zimbabwe sees no reason to delay the inscription of this property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Uganda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, while thanking the State Party of Portugal for presenting a very important property for nomination, we have the same questions posed by Brazil, Tunisia, Spain, Azerbaijan, and others. Would therefore like to make our statement after listening to the State Party of Portugal in response to the questions posed. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. And Bosnia.
La Bosnie-Herzégovine joint les pays qui ont soutenu cette proposition. Merci.
Thank you very much. Now may I ask the state party to give their brief answers to the questions rose in the intervention of the honorable members of the committee.
Merci, Monsieur le Président, de m'avoir donné à nouveau la parole. Je remercie aussi les États membres qui sont intervenus et leurs commentaires, et aussi Icomos pour son évaluation de ce bien et le fait d'y avoir reconnu qu'il s'agit en effet d'un bien d'une valeur universelle exceptionnelle et qu'il a sa place dans la liste du patrimoine mondial, et je cite. Les distingués délégués du Brésil et de l'Espagne ont déjà relevé les aspects les plus importants qui justifient pleinement à nos yeux l'inscription de ce bien pendant cette session du comité. En effet, la seule question de fond suscitée par l'Icomos et qui est répétée le long de la vie concerne une prétendue insuffisance de la compréhension de l'évolution historique du paysage, ce qui serait dû notamment à l'absence d'une étude approfondie de ce paysage. Ce point vient d'être d'ailleurs soulevé par le distingué délégué du Zimbabwe. En fait, cette étude figurait déjà, mais en portugais, dans le dossier de candidature. Par la suite, une version anglaise de cette même étude fut transmise à l'Icomos. J'en ai d'ailleurs une copie ici. Les promoteurs ont aussi répondu de façon complète à d'autres questions concernant cet aspect spécifique. Donc, la compréhension du paysage ne peut être considérée que suffisante aujourd'hui, et l'authenticité du bien amplement démontrée, tout comme son intégrité, toujours reconnue par l'Icomos. Concernant les recommandations, et je sais que justement ça préoccupe les délégations, nous les reprenons dans leur intégralité, telles que proposées par l'Icomos, et je réitère qu'elles seront suivies scrupuleusement et appliquées d'une façon crédible. En fait, elles sont déjà en train d'être mises en œuvre, et je peux vous dire, recommandation à recommandation, quel est le stade. Mais je voudrais aussi adresser avant tout cette préoccupation concernant le classement de ce monument. Eh bien, ce processus est complet, le bâtiment, le site est classé, et de toute façon, tout site inscrit à la liste du patrimoine devient automatiquement site classé au Portugal. Concernant une autre question de M. l'ambassadeur de Tunisie, que je remercie, sur les critères, nous acceptons les critères 4, mais c'est vrai que Cogognes, un autre sanctuaire qui est l'héritier, enfin qui a été inspiré, un sanctuaire au Brésil qui a été inspiré par le bon Jesus du Monte, lui a été classé sous les critères 1 aussi. Donc, si les délégués souhaitent, en plus du critère 4, y ajouter les critères 1, c'est évident que nous n'avons aucune objection. Alors, très rapidement, pour conclure, Monsieur le Président, et répondre aux questions tout à fait compréhensibles des délégations, quand les recommandations, améliorer la documentation, c'est en train d'être fait, et le travail est bien avancé. Finaliser le processus classement, j'en ai déjà parlé. Obtenir les financements nécessaires, ce financement est garanti. Compléter un plan de gestion afin de pouvoir contrôler la fréquentation des visiteurs. Ce plan existe déjà. Il est en train d'être approfondi davantage. Développer des indicateurs, c'est en train d'être fait. Fournir un engagement ferme sur la suppression du bar en terrasse, c'est aussi fait.
Thank you very much.
Donc je crois que toutes les recommandations, soit elles sont déjà complètes, soit elles sont en train de le devenir. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. May I ask Icomos for the comment?
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps the only comments to be made with regard to this landscape issue in particular is that it was a matter for several discussions as in accordance with the evaluation process and those points where Icomos and the State Party have opportunities to discuss these matters or to exchange further information. But through that process, Icomos was still left with questions, with sufficient doubt that insofar as we could see and understand the connection between the, if you like, built fabric of this property and the religious narrative being presented, there was not the comparable level of understanding of how the landscape contributed, if it contributes at all, to this property being a sacred property and having a carefully constructed religious theme running through all aspects. And so, because this is a cultural landscape, Icomos felt that it was an important gap in the information available, which was the basis for Icomos's suggestion for referral. Just with regard to the study, which I think the Honourable Delegate from Portugal has referred to, if we're thinking of the same document, this only came through in an English version with the factual error letter that that was provided with the state party, so that's not actually been possible for Icomos to undertake an assessment of. And just lastly, I think there was a suggestion of the possibility of adding criterion 1 to the suggested criteria that might be considered, but this is not something that was either included within the nomination dossier, and it's certainly not something that has been considered in any way through the evaluation process. So Icomos would be very would advise the committee that this was not a sound suggestion at this stage, given the documentation and the evaluation process undertaken.
Thank you very much. Tunisia, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais d'abord remercier le représentant de l'État partie de nous avoir fourni de très utiles informations pour notre décision. Et nous avons écouté avec beaucoup d'intérêt les réponses du représentant d'Icomos. Et pour cela, la Tunisie est favorable pour une inscription sur la base du critère 4.
Thank you very much. Uganda, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Mr. Chairman, Uganda takes note that Icomos considers this property as an exception one, and that the comparative analysis justifies its inscription on the World Heritage List. We also believe that the substantial and significant information availed by the state party fully clarifies the issue of the understanding of the historical origin of the landscape, which now sounds totally satisfactory. As we also have the guarantees from the state party that it will fully implement the actions recommended by Icomos, my delegation finds it appropriate to inscribe the property on the World Heritage List. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. So as far as the discussion is coming to the end, I would like to ask Rapporteur, we have the draft decision proposed by Spain. So please, you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As heard, Spain has proposed amendments to this decision, supported by many other committee members during the discussion. The first paragraph would remain the same. The second paragraph would read, inscribes the Sanctuary of Bom Jesus de Monte in Braga, Portugal, on the World Heritage List as a cultural landscape on the basis of criterion 4. Then the former paragraphs 2A and B would be deleted. Paragraph 3 would read, takes note of the following provisional statement of outstanding universal value. And for ease of reading, I have not included the provisional statement of outstanding universal value on the screen to avoid excessive scrolling, which makes some of us feel a little ill. But please note that all committee members have received that provisional statement of outstanding universal value in hard copy, so that should have been seen, and of course that will follow. The former paragraph 3, now paragraph 4, remains unchanged until G, which is a new subparagraph, and that reads, developing a more complete and detailed understanding of existing plants, supplementing the landscape attributes based on this work, and using this information to update management planning for the landscape. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So we have to finalize the outstanding value statement. Can you return?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, we have got the provisional statement of outstanding universal value, and all committee members have that. I just didn't put it on the screen because we keep scrolling through and it makes every...
So it's fine. So it's fine. We can adopt the document in the version which presented here. Icomos?
Thank you, Chair. Just a suggestion for the committee to consider that with all of these additional recommendations, that the standard wording about a report back to the committee at a future time for consideration of progress with these recommendations would seem well worthwhile.
Thank you. So we will take it for the note. Can we proceed to the... is included?
Sorry, may I just clarify that the committee would like to include an additional requirement for reporting back, or whether that's not something that the committee would like to include?
Brazil?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think in the sake of consistency with other decisions that have been taken in that sense, we will take on board Icomos' suggestion and recommend the state party to report perhaps by 2021.
It's reasonable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, request the state party to submit to the World Heritage Center by February 2021. Thank you. So, in this version, we can approve the document as proposed by Spain and supported by the other delegates for the inscription, and the version of the draft is, please.
Apologies. Typing that very quickly, it would be required by 1 December 2020, the report, if it's for examination in 2021. So just confirming
Yes.
1
Correct.
December
Correct.
submission.
Correct. Okay. So, thank you very much. I declare the... Angola, please.
Monsieur le Président, nous aimerions revenir sur le paragraphe G. Ça pose un problème de formulation. Je pense qu'on pourrait proposer la formule suivante. Développer une étude complète et détaillée sur les attributs. Je reprends. Développer une étude complète et détaillée sur les végétaux. Merci.
Thank you. I would just like to confirm that paragraph, developing a more complete and detailed study on the understanding, or developing a more complete and detailed study on the attributes of existing plants. I might just suggest that attributes has got a very specific meaning in terms of the convention, and whether understanding may be more appropriate, but it's of course up to the committee to decide on the language.
Angola.
Oui, je suis d'accord, on peut ajouter donc sur les attributs des végétaux existants. Voilà. Sur les attributs des végétaux existants. Voilà. Merci.
Okay, so I think we're clear now in the French to add attributes, but to leave as understanding in the English, which I think is the same or appropriate meaning.
Can we accept this version? Thank you. Therefore, the decision 43-8B 31 is approved is a new version. We congratulate on behalf of all committee members the state party of the government of Portugal, and I would like to give the floor once more to the state party. Welcome.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. C'est un grand plaisir et honneur l'inscription de ces biens, parce que la culture, le patrimoine, pour nous, ne sont pas les monuments, mais les monuments dans leur relation avec les personnes. Et dans nos mains, il n'y a pas de pierres mortes, toutes les pierres deviennent vivantes. Nous remercions beaucoup au Brésil, à l'Espagne, à tous les membres du comité, à Icomos et à l'UNESCO. Le sanctuaire du Bon Jésus du Mont est un espace extraordinaire de vie, de personnes, de religiosité, de tolérance, de convivialité, est un bien commun dans le sens le plus fort du terme, est un lieu de présence multiple, de partage et de coopération. Et nous savons tous et toutes que les grands moments, les grandes avancées de l'humanité ont été faits à travers la coopération et non à travers la compétition et le conflit. Enraciné dans la communauté locale, ouvert à tous et à toutes, le Bon Jésus du Mont se projette maintenant dans le monde comme patrimoine mondial de tolérance et de paix. Merci beaucoup pour votre décision d'inscription et permettez-moi de donner la parole au représentant de la confrérie qui est responsable du sanctuaire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Ambassadors. On behalf of the Confraria do Bom Jesus do Monte in Braga, I want to thank the members of the World Heritage Committee for the inscription of the Sanctuary of Bom Jesus in the World Heritage List of UNESCO, as well as the collaboration of the World Heritage Center. We thank Icomos for the recommendations provided. Confraria do Bom Jesus will take them in full consideration. And we also thank those who have participated in the preparation of the nomination, and I remember all the generations before us that have building and cared for the Sanctuary of Bom Jesus. We are proud and happy for having the Sanctuary of Bom Jesus in the list. It is an architectural and landscape ensemble rebuilding and enhanced through a period over 600 years, reaching a unique formal and symbolic complexity and a monumental character with no precedents in the context of Europe's circuit months. This is the end of 20 years long period of conservation and rehabilitation of the sanctuary. A new chapter starts today in the life of the sanctuary. It is our intention to be promoter of the World Heritage Convention and deepen our cooperation with other World Heritage sites, seeking best practice for heritage conservation, management, use, and communication. We look forward to have you in Bom Jesus do Monte in Braga and the very old city of Braga. Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much. Once more, our congratulations. Now we can proceed to the next item to be concerned. This is number 8B32, connect with the monuments of ancient Pskov from Russian Federation. May I ask Mr. Balsamo for comment?
Thank you, Chair. We received the fatal error notification concerning the evaluation of the monuments of ancient Pskov. And this notification has also impacts on the proposed statement of OUV of the site. And this to be found on page 121 of the English version of document before, and on page 67 of the French version of the same document. Thank you.
May I ask Icomos to present the file?
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson. The monuments of ancient Pskov are located in the historic city of Pskov in the northwest of Russia. The originally nominated property included 18 serial components composed of 2 fortifications, 1 bell tower, 2 monasteries, 3 cathedrals, 11 churches, and 3 administrative chambers. 17 components are located in the historic center of the city of Pskov, while the ensemble of Snetogorski Monastery is situated to the northwest on the right banks of Velikaya River.
The two examples of fortification architecture are the 15th century Pokroskovia Tower, previously an integral component of a larger fortress, and the 16th century Kremyatskaya Tower, which is part of the previously extensive fortification walls on Kremyatskaya Hill. However, both of these, in Icomos' view, did not make a relevant contribution to the outstanding universal value of the property. Two complexes of administrative chambers were also included, one in the Pskov Kremlin and the Pogankin chambers within the outer part of the historic center, both dating to the 17th century, and likewise these were not seen as making a significant contribution to the property's OUV. Exceptional among the Pskov monuments, however, are the churches, both individually and at times in monastic structures, which illustrate the architectural mastery as well as decorative ornaments produced by the Pskov School of Architecture. The Pskov School developed from the earlier Novgorod School and was formally established as an independent school in the 14th century. It became most influential in the 16th and 17th centuries after Pskov entered the Russian state. The school is known for its architectural works which illustrate simplicity in form, similarity amongst a range of built monuments, often featuring asymmetries, integration of their natural setting, and organic architectural forms. The mastery of the school's output is transmitted in these religious structures, which are characterized by added spaces such as side chapels, vestries, narthexes, porches, galleries, and belfries. And these churches are the best preserved testimony of the school's output. Out of the initially proposed 14 churches and cathedrals, Icomos considers that 10 meet the high benchmarks of outstanding universal value. These 10 selected churches and cathedrals maintained their immediate property setting in the form of access routes, gardens, fences, as well as vegetation, which contribute to the traditional atmosphere of these spiritual abodes and integrate their natural surrounding with continued religious use. Icomos considers that these 10 component sites of the serial nomination meet criterion 2 and the conditions of integrity and authenticity. Icomos further considers that the boundaries should be revised in line with the reduced component selection and that monitoring indicators and the visitor management strategy could be strengthened. Icomos hence recommends the inscription of a reduced series of 10 churches and cathedrals as indicated in the draft decision under criterion 2. The additional recommendations address the before-mentioned issues and are included in your draft decision. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you, Icomos, for presentation. Azerbaijan wanted the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We thank the Icomos for its report. The Pskov is one of the best representation of Russian history, of its statehoodness and the Orthodox Church. And we are very surprised that it is the first time that it inscribed, so it's not inscribed for a long period of time before. For us, this Pskov is one of the best examples of the School of Architecture, which is recognized as one of the most artistic and original in Russian Federation and even beyond, as it inspired a lot of artists across Russia and beyond to develop the architectural skills. In that sense, we believe that this site has an exceptional value for all humanity. Integrity and authenticity are met. Conservation measures, protection and management are intact with the Icomos requirements. And what is left is just to congratulate the State Party and Icomos for this exemplary work and congratulate for the inscription of this site. Thank you.
Thank you very much. China, please.
Thank you, Chair. China congratulates the monuments or congratulates the State Party of Russia for the monuments of ancient Pskov to be included onto the World Heritage List, and appreciates the Russian government for adding to the World Heritage List a masterwork of an important architectural school that has had wide influence. China also appreciates the professional evaluation opinion given by Icomos, and we concur with the point made by Azerbaijan, and we really want to congratulate Russia again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Norway, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Norway welcomes this site to the World Heritage List. Pskov is not only one of Russia's oldest and most interesting cities, it's the home of one of the world's most important schools of architecture. The school and the religious buildings in Pskov are so beautiful in the way that they are of such a refined and clarified form. These buildings express a kind of purity and spirituality that harmonize so well with their surroundings. No wonder that the Pskov School of Architecture has had such a great influence in Russia. Congratulations, Russia. Norvegia, Pozdravit, Rasio, with the church site, churches of the Pskov School of Architecture. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Brazil, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Brazilian delegation would like to congratulate the Russian Federation for this very important nomination, which features a cradle of Russia culture. We understand that this nomination, for its geopolitical and historic significance, reflects the essence of Russia's civilization and deserves rightful recognition as a World Heritage Site. We commend the Russian Federation for the consistent work carried out by experts for more than 1 decade that resulted in this very successful accomplishment. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Zimbabwe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Zimbabwe delegation would like to thank Icomos for the extensive review of the nomination presented by the State Party of Russia. We also commend the State Party for the excellent nomination, which recognizes that there are different architectural traditions in the world. These architectural traditions are represented in different styles and decorative elements produced by the School of Architecture between the 12th and 17th centuries. Zimbabwe supports the recommendation of the advisory body to nominate the property on the World Heritage List. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Hungary, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Hungary congratulates the State Party for this excellent nomination, and first of all, because this place, this property is really a very important both in historical as in art historic and architectural respect. It was emphasized also in the evaluation of Icomos. Thank you for this evaluation, and Hungary supports fully the inscribing this property onto the World Heritage List.
Thank you very much. Kyrgyzstan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We join to the congratulations on the inscription of monuments of ancient Pskov on the list of World Heritage. And we also noted that there was extensive information exchange between Icomos and the state party in order to get all the information and to evaluate this file. We thank again.
Thank you very much. Spain.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Queremos felicitar sinceramente a la Federación Rusa por esta propuesta que nos trae, que en la línea que siempre valoramos de ejemplos que irradian después una realidad que se extiende. Quiero decir, esta escuela de arquitectura que se ciña a una arquitectura religiosa, pero que siendo un germen que ha polinizado posteriormente todo un desarrollo arquitectónico en toda la zona eslava. Por tanto, es importante que en tiempos en que olvidamos los orígenes de algunos sitios y los orígenes de algunas culturas, alguien traiga una candidatura que hace aflorar y que explica el porqué de todo un desarrollo arquitectónico religioso en toda una zona del mundo, que es ese es el germen, y luego se produce una polinización arquitectónica en el sistema religioso que nos trae una bella realidad para ofrecer en este momento como patrimonio a todo el mundo. Así es que gracias, Icomos, por el informe que nos trae, y gracias a la Federación Rusa por tener el detalle y el trabajo de ofrecernos esta ilustración para que todo el mundo conozca cómo se desarrolló ese tipo de arquitectura.
Thank you very much. Bosnia.
We like to congratulate, because this architecture can be inspiration to contemporary architects to learn something after 5 centuries of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I ask honorable members of the committee, are there any other opinions or objections to the draft proposed by Icomos? I don't see any. Do we have any additions, Rapporteur?
No amendments, Mr. Chair.
So there are no amendments. Therefore, I would like to declare the decision 43.8b.32 adopted as amended. Мы поздравляем от имени членов комитета делегацию Российской Федерации с включением этой номинации в список всемирного наследия ЮНЕСКО. Our congratulations to Russian Federation. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to express our deep gratitude to Icomos and the World Heritage Center and all members of the committee for the inscription nomination to the World Heritage List. The city of Pskov, with its richest heritage, is very dear to our hearts. It is one of those ancient Russian cities which constitute the cradle of our culture and civilization. But it is also a part of European history and culture. It should have been on the list of World Heritage long ago, and we are happy that this long-awaited moment of inscription has finally arrived. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, Madam Emelianova, first Vice Governor of the region of Pskov, would like to say some words.
Уважаемые члены Комитета всемирного наследия ЮНЕСКО, благодарим вас за поддержку номинации «Храмы Псковской архитектурной школы». Это высокая честь для нас. Благодарим Icomos за проведенную работу по оценке псковской номинации. Благодарим солнечный Азербайджан за оказанное теплое гостеприимство. Это взаимообогащающее, созидательное партнерство. Памятники псковской церковной архитектуры отвечают духу русской национальной культуры. Они изысканно просты и сдержаны, лаконичны и естественны, живописны, асимметричны, несут в себе огромную эмоциональную силу, глубину и искренность. Псковское церковное зодчество оказало влияние на развитие архитектуры как в России, так и за ее пределами, являясь в XIX-XX веках источником вдохновения для архитекторов от бразильского Рио-де-Жанейро до итальянского Бари. Мы полностью осознаем ответственность, которую налагает на нас включение псковских памятников в список всемирного наследия ЮНЕСКО и сделаем все возможное, чтобы обеспечить выполнение решений Комитета всемирного наследия ЮНЕСКО и сохранение архитектурных шедевров Пскова для передачи и грядущим поколениям во имя высоких нравственных ценностей и сохранения всего культурного многообразия мира. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I now invite Icomos to present the nomination of Risco Callado and the Sacred Mountains of Gran Canaria Cultural Landscape in Spain. Icomos, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Risco Callado and the Sacred Mountains of Gran Canaria Cultural Landscape encompass a central mountainous area on Gran Canaria Island, sheltered by the Caldera de Tejeda and formed of cliffs, ravines, and volcanic formations. The property contains a large number of troglodyte settlements, which bear witness to the efforts of the island's original inhabitants to adapt to a difficult environment. Its size is around 9.5 hectares. The property contains a set of manifestations of an extinct insular culture that seems to have evolved in total isolation until the arrival of the first Berbers from the North Maghreb region and later the Spanish conquest. The inscriptions, similar to those found in the Maghreb region, provide proof of the local presence of a pre-Hispanic culture on the island. The troglodyte settlement consists of habitats, granaries, and cisterns, together with sites containing a large number of cave art images. The early Canarians preferred areas dominated by volcanic material and tough sands, which were relatively easy to sculpt using stone or bone tools. The cavities, referred to as temples or almogaranes, are documented throughout the island of Gran Canaria and are suspected to have been created as astronomical markers and be linked to a possible cult related to the stars and Mother Earth. Risco Callado was carefully sculpted with a perfectly symmetrical vault and a window open to the sky. The specific geometry of the cave enables the illumination by the first rays of the sun of certain decorative elements at successive periods of the year. The archaeological sites of Risco Callado and the sacred mountains of Gran Canaria illustrate an exceptional testimony to this extinct insular culture that seems to have evolved in isolation for more than 1,500 years. Its vestiges survived in time and space, shaping the landscape till today, and facilitating traditional land management practices such as transhumance, terrace farming installations, and water management. Icomos considers that the property meets criteria 3 and 5, and that the qualifying conditions of authenticity and integrity have been met. Icomos further considers property boundaries and protection are adequate, and that merely some elements of the management system could be further improved. Icomos recommends that the property be inscribed on the World Heritage List and further requests the state party to strengthen some management mechanisms as outlined in the additional recommendations of the draft decision. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairperson.
Thank you. I would like to know if there are any comments concerning this nomination. Australia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Australia would sincerely like to thank Spain for putting forward this nomination. We were absolutely fascinated by this extraordinary cultural landscape and the descriptions of the sites of astronomical significance, cave art, stone constructions, and connected by a network of ancient paths that continue to be used by local communities. The inscription of this property greatly enriches the diversity of values and places on the World Heritage List, and in particular the expression in landscape of tangible and intangible values, the lives and beliefs of past and present communities and their interactions with the environment. We fully support inscription. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tunisia, you have the floor. Thank you.
Merci Madame la Présidente. La Tunisie voudrait remercier l'État partie et le féliciter de nous avoir fourni un très beau dossier et un cas extrêmement intéressant dans ces belles îles des Canaries. Et ces sites troglodytes et cet habitat exceptionnel que l'on retrouve un peu partout dans le pourtour méditerranéen est particulièrement remarquable et exceptionnel dans ce cadre insulaire. Nous trouvons que c'est un très beau site qui mérite sa place sur la liste du patrimoine mondial et nous rejoignons bien entendu l'organe consultatif dans son appréciation de la vérification des critères 3 et 5. Donc nous sommes très heureux d'appuyer cette inscription et féliciter l'État partie de nous offrir un si beau dossier. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Kuwait, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, let me thank the State of Spain for the great nomination and also the advisory board for the great report. Just one last thing for the Spain. Thank you so much for the great job. You made our job so easy. We definitely support the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you very much. China.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China congratulates Spain's Recalcado and the sacred mountain of Gran Canaria cultural landscape to be included onto the World Heritage List. This is a very unique cultural landscape. The archaeological sites, rock art manifestation, grand geomorphology, and ecosystem system diversity bear testimony to an extinct insular culture that seems to have evolved in isolation for more than 1,500 years. China also appreciates the Icomos recommendation to strengthen research, develop monitoring program, disaster prevention plan, and the tourism strategy for an extraordinary cultural landscape, and to implement a management model that involves the participation from different stakeholders. China also believes that Spain, as a major cultural heritage country, can protect and carry forward another world heritage. We fully support the inscription. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brazil.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Quisiera solamente felicitar a España por esta candidatura excepcional. Es un paisaje cultural excepcional que guarda trazos materiales de la sabiduría de los hombres y de las mujeres de la prehistoria y que además es un sitio de una belleza inspiradora, y para nada quisiera felicitar a España por ese bellísimo trabajo que es muy inspirador y que de hecho ocupa un lugar en la lista de Patrimonio Mundial y que atiende a la estrategia global. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Muito obrigado. Cuba, you have the floor.
Gracias, señora Presidenta. Cuba quiere agradecer al Estado parte, en este caso el Reino de España, por contribuir con esta nominación a ese balance y credibilidad de la lista y sobre todo por el reconocimiento de estas culturas extintas. Cuba apoya firmemente esta inscripción en la lista. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Tanzania wishes to congratulate Spain for this innovative nomination. Tanzania also commends Icomos for the thorough analysis, evaluation, recommendations, and the conclusions. Tanzania supports the draft decision to inscribe this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Azerbaijan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Azerbaijan also joins the previous speakers in congratulating the state party for this nomination. It's not only a testimony to the exceptional architectural and rock art, but it's also a very beautiful site. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guatemala, con la palabra.
Muchas gracias, señora Presidente. Queremos también agradecer la excelente calidad de la nominación presentada por el Estado parte y el detallado análisis realizado por Icomos. Estamos frente a un valioso sitio que viene a fortalecer la lista del Patrimonio Mundial, como ya lo han mencionado algunos miembros del comité. Este sitio vincula el paisaje, la astronomía, la naturaleza y el desarrollo temprano de la humanidad, demostrando el profundo conocimiento de los habitantes de la isla en una época tan antigua, pero que comprendían muy bien la naturaleza y el universo. Consideramos que se han demostrado claramente los criterios 3 y 5, la integridad y conservación del sitio es apropiada y también tomamos nota de las pequeñas medidas de fortalecimiento en el sistema de gestión que deberán ser implementadas por el Estado parte, algo de lo cual no tenemos ninguna duda. Guatemala desea felicitar al Estado de España por esta nominación y apoyamos la inscripción del sitio, que es realmente excepcional y da evidencia de una época que debe ser preservada como parte de la historia universal. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Are there any more comments? If not, I would ask our rapporteur if there are any amendments proposed to this draft decision.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We've received no amendments.
Bueno, después de tantas expresiones muy favorables de bienvenidas a esta decisión, es con gran satisfacción que declaramos adoptada la decisión 43,8b.33. Aprobada. Gracias. Y al felicitar a la delegación de España en nombre de todos los miembros de este comité, me gustaría en este momento de pasarles la palabra para que se expresen. Muchísimas gracias. Tienen la palabra, por favor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Nuestro agradecimiento a Azerbaiyán por la organización de esta 43 sesión del Comité de Patrimonio Mundial. El Ministerio de Cultura y Deporte de España quiere agradecer a Icomos por su excelente trabajo, a los miembros del comité por sus intervenciones, avalando la inclusión de este bien en la lista de Patrimonio Mundial y al Centro de Patrimonio Mundial por su compromiso con la Convención. Con esta inscripción, España suma otro bien que es un ejemplo del paisaje cultural insular y que pone de manifiesto la diversidad cultural de nuestro país. Me gustaría pasar al Gobierno de Canarias, a través de su director general de Patrimonio, la palabra. Muchas gracias.
Señora presidenta, en nombre del Gobierno de Canarias queremos dar las gracias a Icomos y a los miembros del comité por tener hoy el honor de pasar a formar parte de la lista de Patrimonio Mundial. El mundo aborigen sobrevivió y se adapta al nuevo orden europeo, perviviendo así sus manifestaciones culturales, incluyendo el hábitat troglodita. El aborigen no desapareció de la historia insular. Su imagen quedó escondida en el marco de las grandes transformaciones y en el nuevo estatus sociopolítico instaurado en Gran Canaria. Esto es, en buena medida, lo que estamos celebrando en Baku. El reconocimiento a un pueblo, al pueblo canario, nosotros, hijos e hijas de aquellos primeros isleños que nos precedieron en esta maravillosa tierra que sabe cuidar y mimar su patrimonio cultural. Nos sentimos agradecidos y emocionados por poder compartir desde España y las Islas Canarias que esta declaración como Patrimonio Mundial se convierta en un referente de la aventura humana de la que forma parte desde tiempos ancestrales, de la memoria colectiva de todos los canarios. Asumimos hoy un desafío y una responsabilidad, pues el mundo entero estará atento al cuidado y atención que le prestemos al paisaje cultural de Risco Caído y las montañas sagradas de la Gran Canaria. Muchas gracias.
Señora Presidenta del Comité de Patrimonio Mundial, como Presidente del Gobierno de mi isla, del Cabildo Insular de Gran Canaria, y en nombre de nuestro pueblo, deseo agradecer el reconocimiento recibido por los miembros del Comité del Patrimonio Mundial y de los miembros de los Estados firmantes de la Convención, que ha permitido que este bien haya sido hoy inscrito en la lista de Patrimonio Mundial. Siempre hemos sido conscientes de que la nominación de las montañas sagradas de Gran Canaria como paisaje cultural no era solo el objetivo, sino más bien el marco que permitirá afianzar la pervivencia de este legado excepcional para las generaciones presentes y venideras. Un patrimonio al que todos ustedes le han reconocido hoy su valor universal extraordinario. Un lugar que ejemplifica la gran odisea de las culturas insulares, territorios atrapados entre el cielo y el mar y que en nuestro caso se nutren a partir de sus raíces amasí. Un paisaje cultural cincelado y mantenido a través del tiempo por los habitantes de las cumbres de Gran Canaria. Muchas gracias a todos los que han hecho posible que esto sea hoy una realidad. Señora Presidenta, solo le pido que durante unos segundos escasos el plenario pueda escuchar los sonidos de aquellos insulares del pasado que aún retumban en nuestra memoria. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. I would now invite Icomos to present the nomination of the Jodrell Bank Observatory, United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Icomos, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Icomos evaluation can be found at page 349 of the English version and page 386 of the French version of document 43com inf 8b1. The Jodrell Bank Observatory is one of the earliest radio astronomy observatories in the world and is located in a rural area in northwest England. The observatory played a pioneering role in human understanding of the universe from the 1940s. The site encompasses a number of radio telescopes and supporting functional buildings, including the iconic Lovell telescope and large Mark II telescope. And it is surrounded by open countryside which, importantly, is free from radio interference. The observatory is now the hub of the United Kingdom's national wide array of up to 7 radio telescopes, including both the Lovell and Mark II telescopes. Icomos found that the comparative analysis justifies consideration of this property for the World Heritage List and notes that it relies upon the 2-part Icomos and International Astronomical Union thematic study on astronomy and archaeoastronomy. Icomos considers that the nominated property meets criteria 1, 2, 4 and 6. Jodrell Bank Observatory is a masterpiece of human creative genius related to its scientific and technical achievements. The adaptation and development of radar and radio frequency reflectivity to develop radically new equipment were a key part in the development of entirely new fields of scientific research and led to a dramatic change in the understanding of the universe. The observatory represents an important interchange of human values on a global scale on developments in technology related to radio astronomy. The scientific work at Jodrell Bank was at the heart of a global collaborative network, and important technological developments were influential in many parts of the world. Jodrell Bank represents an outstanding example of a technological ensemble which illustrates the transition from traditional optical astronomy to radio astronomy and the associated consequence for the understanding of the universe. The property is also associated with the peacetime development of what is called big science as a major change in the way in which scientific research was supported and undertaken. The surviving evidence related to the evolutionary development of radio astronomy makes Jodrell Bank an outstanding example of such a technological ensemble. Jodrell Bank is directly and tangibly associated with events and ideas of outstanding universal significance. Understanding of the nature and scale of the universe has been dramatically changed by research in radio astronomy at the observatory. The property boundary has been drawn to incorporate a minimal area. Nonetheless, it has been defined so as to include all the attributes that belong to and represent the history of Jodrell Bank as a property of outstanding universal value related to pioneering astronomical research. The proposed buffer zone corresponds to an existing and legally based consultation zone established in 1973 to protect Jodrell Bank from radio emissions in its vicinity. The structures at the observatory have been subject to modifications, repairs and upgrade works since the 1960s. Icomos considers that the state of conservation is generally good. The main factors affecting the property are development within the property or in the area surrounding it, and maintenance of the large steel structure of the Lovell telescope. However, there are generally few factors that might pose a threat to the property and its proposed outstanding universal value. In this context, Icomos considers that the requirements of integrity and authenticity have been met. Conservation measures for the observatory are generally adequate. Ongoing care will be needed to respect and portray the historical character of the buildings and site development, recognising the relatively primitive character of some buildings and the historical changes undertaken, with little regard to aesthetics or quality construction. The arrangements for protection and management are adequate, and the monitoring approach for the observatory is generally satisfactory. There is a management structure, including the site's main user groups. Heritage management is integrated with research, operations and engineering functions. A conservation management plan and detailed site gazetteer are key management documents, and heritage management is supported by a range of specialist staff. Icomos therefore recommends the property for inscription in the World Heritage List on the grounds of criteria 1, 2, 4 and 6, and the draft decision with additional recommendations can be found at page 49 of the working document WHC 1943.com 8B. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Icomos. I would like now to know if there are any comments by members of this committee. Spain, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, Presidenta. La delegación española se siente muy contenta con esta candidatura, que como la anterior aprobada está vinculada a la astronomía, en línea totalmente con los estudios temáticos que se han venido llevando a cabo por parte de Icomos relacionados con la astronomía, la ciencia y la tecnología. Además, en esos estudios temáticos ya se decía que existía una pequeña laguna con respecto a los observatorios astronómicos del siglo XX, con lo cual bienvenida esta candidatura que llena este vacío. Y sobre todo porque es una candidatura vinculada al conocimiento, al patrimonio inmaterial. Estamos protegiendo el conocimiento científico y eso yo creo que es motivo de celebración, porque además incluso estuvo al servicio de la ciencia en momentos de periodos bélicos, y creo que esto es absolutamente reseñable en los momentos que estamos viviendo actualmente. Muchísimas gracias, Reino Unido, por presentar esta propuesta y tenemos todos que felicitarnos. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Uganda, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, this property of a marvelous state-of-the-art observatory and associated science and technology in all manner of sophistication is supported by an impressive nomination dossier worthy of inscription on the World Heritage List. In that regard, my delegation supports the draft decision towards inscription of the property on the World Heritage List, and I congratulate the state part of UK. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Norway, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Norway finds it easy to join the congratulations to the distinguished state party of United Kingdom for this excellent nomination. We hope that the World Heritage status will provide inspiration for further groundbreaking research at the Jodrell Bank Observatory. The committee is invited to inscribe this property with just a few recommendations and with no request for any report to be added to the workload of the World Heritage Center and the advisory body. We believe that the few recommendations that are given should be within comfortable reach for the responsible entities to fulfill. So hopefully, by deciding upon an inscription, the committee in this case will not clear the ground for another almost endless row of missions, reports, and concerns in the future. Now, the 20th century and the modern technology of radio astronomy will be represented on the World Heritage List, besides the earlier inscribed sites representing the preceding optical methods. A gap is then filled in regard to this very specific but significant type of cultural heritage. So here, Europe really contributes to the adequacy of the convention. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Je passe maintenant la parole à la délégation de la Tunisie, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente. Je voudrais, au nom de la Tunisie, féliciter la Grande-Bretagne de porter un dossier extrêmement important. Notre délégation a pris l'habitude d'intervenir de manière spécifique lorsque le comité est saisi de dossiers qui touchent plusieurs thématiques importantes pour l'UNESCO. En voici un et qui le démontre de fort belle manière. Je crois que, tout d'abord, la solidité du dossier se vérifie quant à la confirmation par l'organe consultatif de la présence d'au moins 4 critères susceptibles de son inscription, ce que la Tunisie confirme et appuie. Mais ce dossier nous paraît aussi extrêmement important puisqu'il touche à la fois à la question de la culture, à la science, mais également à la pédagogie et donc à l'éducation. Et c'est au cœur donc de les triples centres d'intérêt de notre organisation. C'est pour ça que cela nous paraît non seulement mériter l'inscription, mais mériter les félicitations de l'État partie. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Paso ahora la palabra a la delegación de Cuba. Por favor, tiene la palabra.
Gracias, señora presidenta. En esta nominación, como en la anterior, reconocemos realmente la creatividad y a la vez el aporte a la lista del Patrimonio Mundial. Creemos que es una nominación muy sólida, no solo en términos de justificación del valor universal excepcional, sino en términos de procedimiento para garantizar su conservación, y así el órgano consultivo, en un análisis muy profundo, lo ha reconocido, e incluso en 4 de los criterios de la Convención. Apoyamos la inscripción de este sitio como un aporte a la lista del Patrimonio Mundial. Gracias.
Muchas gracias al distinguido representante de Cuba. Con la palabra ahora, Brasil. Muito obrigado.
Obrigado, Madam Chairperson. Would like to commend the State Party of the United Kingdom for presenting this very robust nomination, as we've just heard from Icomos in its evaluation, how substantive work has been done to put forward this nomination. We we think that the session in Baku will be a landmark in terms of World Heritage related to astronomy. We have just inscribed a property in Spain that relates to astronomy in its prehistory, and now we jump all the way to the 20th century with that property. We have also inscribed the city of Jaipur in this session, which also hosts a astronomical observatory that which is already inscribed on the World Heritage List. So with this inscription that we're about to adopt, we believe that we fill an important gap in the narrative of how heritage contributes to astronomy. With that note, we fully support and we commend the United Kingdom for this nomination. Thank you.
Muito obrigada. After this massive expression of support, I would like to ask if there are any more comments. If I don't see any more comments, so in this case, I would like to ask our rapporteur whether we have any amendments to the proposed draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have no proposed amendments to this draft decision. Thank you.
Well, in view of the report of the rapporteur, it is with great pleasure that this committee declares approved Decision 43-8B.3.5. Approved. Thank you. Pass the floor to someone? Of course. I would like to congratulate, in the name of all committee members, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, on behalf of all of us, for the inscription of this property on the World Heritage List. You have the floor. Thank you, UK.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Humanity has always regarded the skies above us with wonder and curiosity, and we have long been driven to learn about what lies beyond our planet. For many thousands of years, the exploration of the wider universe was limited to what we could see through the visible spectrum of light. It was only in very recent history, with the development of radio astronomy, that we have been able to apply new methods of studying our universe beyond what we can see with our eyes. Jodrell Bank Observatory played a pivotal role in the development of this new field of astronomy. Thanks to the World Heritage Committee, the observatory is now recognized as a masterpiece of human creative genius. And as the distinguished delegate of Tunisia has just acknowledged, this site embraces the breadth of UNESCO responsibilities across education, science, and culture. On behalf of Her Majesty's Government, I would wish to thank the members of the committee for inscribing this exceptional site on the World Heritage List. And I would like to thank the excellent team at the World Heritage Centre and the advisory bodies for their analysis and scrutiny of the nomination. This inscription will ensure that Jodrell Bank Observatory continues to inspire young people and future generations to engage with science and technology, to explore space, the final frontier, and to boldly go where no one has gone before. As with any World Heritage site, success has many parents. I wish to congratulate the University of Manchester and in particular Professors Teresa Anderson and Tim O'Brien for their work in preparing the nomination. With your permission, Madam Chair, I will pass the microphone to Professor Anderson to say a few words.
Thank you. On behalf of all the people of Jodrell Bank Observatory, the University of Manchester, and those who are part of our wider community, we would also like to thank the World Heritage Committee, the World Heritage Centre, and all the advisory bodies. And of course, our thanks go to the World Heritage team in the UK, some of whom are with us today, for all their invaluable advice and support throughout the process of nomination. Jodrell Bank Observatory, as you have seen, is a place of iconic telescopes and simple buildings, a place where people come together from nations across the world to explore some of the biggest questions facing humanity. How did the universe begin? How did the stars and planets form? Does life exist beyond the Earth? We are proud and humbled now to sit alongside other, more ancient observatories on the World Heritage List, recognising that we are taking only the most recent steps on humanity's long journey towards understanding our place in the universe. Thank you again.
I now invite Icomos to present the nomination of the Historic Center of Sheki with the Khan's Palace, presented by Azerbaijan. The draft decision concerning this nomination can be found in document 8B ADD. Before I give the floor to the Secretariat, Mr. Balsamo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's just to remind the committee that we received a factual error notification concerning the evaluation of the Historic Center of Sheki with the Khan's Palace. And this notification is on page 40 of the English document in fact before and on page 45 of the French version of the same document. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Icomos, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. The historic town of Sheki is situated in the central north of Azerbaijan, along the southern edge of the Great Caucasian mountain range. Sheki's historic center was built as a reconstruction of an earlier town after mud floods in 1772 and is characterized by a traditional architectural ensemble of houses with high saddle roofs. Located along important historic trade routes, its architecture was influenced by Safavid, Qajar, and Russian building traditions. The Khan's Palace in the northeast of the town, together with various merchants' houses, reflects the wealth generated by silkworm breeding and the trading of silk cocoons in the late 18th and 19th centuries. This is a referred nomination. In its 2017 evaluation of the original nomination, Icomos recommended that the property should not be inscribed on the World Heritage List. At the 41st session in 2017, the World Heritage Committee referred the nomination back to the State Party in order to further advance conservation and management mechanisms and recommended the State Party to prepare an action plan for conservation and preservation of the nominated property. Can we just go back a slide, please? In February 2019, the State Party submitted supplementary information related only to conservation and protection. As a revised nomination dossier has not been submitted, and as no further mission has been undertaken, the sections in the Icomos evaluation report on description, history, justification of OUV, factors affecting the property, boundaries and ownership remain unchanged from Icomos's first evaluation. Our new text thus relates only to the supplementary information that has been submitted. The nominated area corresponds to the historic core of Sheki and covers an area of approximately 120 hectares and surrounded by a buffer zone. Although the history of Sheki dates back at least 2 millennia, the current historic town was built around 30 years after the establishment of the Sheki Khanate in 1743, when the old settlement was destroyed by flooding and rebuilt on higher ground. The town soon regained its prosperity on the basis of trade, particularly in silk, along the well-established trade routes to which it had long been linked. The traditional Sheki houses of the new town were each enclosed by a high wall within which were residential buildings of mud bricks in timber frames and plastered and painted in ochre colors. Many houses had deep verandas facing in a southerly direction, and around them, planted with mulberry trees to feed the silkworms, the gardens produced cocoons that was a source of wealth for the city. Today, only some 4% of houses still remain from this founding period. A mere 18 years after the new city was founded, the short-lived Sheki Khanate was abolished by the Russian Empire. Some 60% of buildings now reflect this period of Russian administration, while a third belong to the more recent Soviet period after 1920. The form of the city, as we see it today, is thus a mosaic of these different periods. Unfortunately, in the late 20th century, renovations that did not comply with adequate international conservation standards have partially changed the character of Sheki as a traditional settlement. The historic centre of the town was its citadel, built in 1790 alongside the major trade route and a key focus of trading activities. Throughout the 19th century, Sheki remained a trade town under Russian military control. Sericulture blossomed, factories were built with machinery imported from Italy and France, and the resulting silk exported widely to Europe. By the early 20th century, there were some 127 factories in the town. Sadly, little remains of these industrial enterprises, and the one or two buildings that do survive are in private ownership. After a fire in the town in 1852, the area around the centre near the citadel was remodeled, and the Russian presence is reflected in the new buildings of river stone and fired brick. The wealth generated by the Renaissance in trade in the 19th century was also reflected in the houses of merchants, with their constructions being significantly different from the more modest earlier forms. At the height of its trading activities, the town had 5 caravanserais to service the large number of caravans traversing the routes. 2 survive, one of which is now a hotel. The Khan's palace within the citadel was initially built in 1797 during the reign of Muhammad Qasan Khan. This is the only remaining structure of the much larger original palatial complex. Designed by the Persian architect Haji Zainal Abdul, its lavish decoration includes a mosaic of colored glass set in a wooden latticework on the entire southern elevation, and elaborate interior plasterwork and frescoes painted at different times. The palace underwent major restorations in 1955 to 65 and again in 2002. As no new information has been provided on the justification for inscription, integrity and authenticity, these parts of Icomos' evaluation have not altered from our first texts. We would like to recall we could not see the potential for the property to demonstrate the proposed criteria and that integrity and authenticity had been affected by past and recent developments and restorations and could not meet the necessary levels, and that overall the property could not therefore justify outstanding universal value. In our first evaluation, Icomos provided recommendations on conservation management, capacity building, and the protection of setting. The supplementary information provided by the State Party in January 2019 includes an action plan for the conservation and rehabilitation of the historic centre of Sheki and a restoration manual. The action plan provides an assessment of the conservation challenges that face the historic town and its landscape setting. It is an aspirational document that analyzes the conservation threats and challenges, but does not provide more than a general approach to how these might be addressed. The restoration manual is seen as a code of practice for operators involved in the management and recovery of the historic city. The action plan and the restoration manual are both useful resource and guidance documents that could and should form the basis for the development of planning guidelines and perhaps stronger protection for individual buildings. Currently, the documents have no status, nor are there formal means of implementation in place. In summary, Icomos thus has not been in a position to reassess the potential significance of the property, nor to reconsider the recommendations of its first evaluation. as no additional information on these aspects had been requested nor received. Icomos considers that this referred back nomination confirms the need for a further review of the refer back process, as decided by the committee at its last session. In conclusion, Chair, noting that no new information relating to the potential significance of the property has been submitted, which would have allowed Icomos to reassess this aspect of the property, Icomos reiterates its first recommendation and recommends that the historic centre of Sheki with the Khan's Palace, Azerbaijan, should not be inscribed on the World Heritage List. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for your report. I would now like to know if there are any comments by the members of this committee. Kuwait, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, dear committee members, we have here a decision, not a draft decision. A decision was taken 2 years ago by a lot. Most of the member committee was involved in that decision. And the decision stated for the dossier, it was referred with a very specific, requirement. Very specific requirement, I say it again, about the conservation, state of conservation of the management. And the state party, it took them 2 years to prepare this report thoroughly. It took them 2 years, then the reason for that, they made sure all the requirement was met according to that decision, not the draft decision. They established presidential decree in October 2018 to make sure all those implementation to be implemented to the highest level. They initiated governmental identity. They allocated manpowers, human resources for that. They have been trained and allocated for those to implement those in the decision, not in the draft decisions. They brought also international experts well-known within the advisory board. No one can question their credibility, again, to prepare those documents. After all that, we believe all the requirement was met for the decision 2 years ago. That's why the state of Kuwait submitted a draft amendment to inscribe based on the given document. One more thing, Madam Chair and dear committee members. This committee is the heart of UNESCO. This is the intergovernmental committee that the decision comes out of this committee is to preserve our cultures. What would happen if we don't respect and implement our own decisions? I think we're going to lose our procedures. We're going to lose we're going to lose our integrity. I've been hearing the word procedure integrity the last few days in Spanish, French, and English. Everyone focusing on the integrity and the procedure of this committee, and this is the only way we can implement them through our own decisions. How can we face the international community, the local communities, the local government, the state parties, if we don't implement our own decisions? I think this is a turning point of history, and for sure, again, I'm highlighting for sure, the state of Kuwait does not want to be part of a committee that lost its integrity. That's why, once again, I'm submitting a draft resolution to inscribe the dossier. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Kuwait. Angola, com a palavra.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je voudrais tout d'abord remercier l'Icomos et l'État partie d'avoir soumis à notre appréciation ces dossiers qui nous paraît être assez complexe, pas en termes de la qualité scientifique, mais peut-être complexe en termes d'avis émis et de la décision qui doit être prise. Je pense que, Madame la Présidente, nous devons faire fonctionner nos intelligences et peut-être contrôler également nos émotions par rapport à ces dossiers. Je commencerai par revenir un peu en arrière, donc 2 ans en arrière. Les comités avaient renvoyé ces dossiers pour que l'État partie complète quelques pièces, notamment les mécanismes de conservation et de préservation, et également élaborer un plan d'action pour la conservation et la préservation du bien. Je partirai sur 2 hypothèses. Ça, c'est la décision prise en 2017. OK. La première hypothèse serait, même si l'État partie n'avait pas soumis ses pièces, la logique serait de maintenir la même décision. Ça, c'est la première chose. Ça, c'est la première hypothèse. Donc, je ne parle même pas s'ils ont remis ou pas. Donc, même s'ils n'avaient pas remis, la décision serait maintenue, renvoi. La deuxième hypothèse, peut-être l'État partie s'est donné le travail de développer un nouveau dossier. Peut-être s'est senti capable de soumettre un nouveau dossier pour un nouvel examen. Donc peut-être l'avis émis par l'Icomos se base sur un nouveau dossier soumis par l'État partie. Je parle d'hypothèse, je ne confirme rien. Ceci étant, nous aimerions, avant que nous puissions donner notre avis, écouter l'Icomos. Est-ce qu'ils ont considéré la décision du comité il y a 2 ans de travailler sur le dossier qui a été déjà, disons, discuté à Cracovie et qui montrait déjà qu'il y avait la valeur universelle exceptionnelle avérée, ou ils ont travaillé sur un nouveau dossier qui a fait objet d'une nouvelle évaluation. Et de l'autre côté, l'État partie également devrait nous donner des informations s'ils ont remis des pièces qui leur avaient été demandées il y a 2 ans ou s'ils ont développé un nouveau dossier qui nous place devant un avis de non-inscription. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Je vous remercie infiniment. Je pris note de votre suggestion d'écouter le COMOS, mais je vous demande un peu de patience, parce que nous allons passer la parole à l'Icomos pour se prononcer après avoir entendu les autres membres du comité. Merci beaucoup. I would now pass the floor to China, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. China is also very much puzzled with the decision, with the recommendation of Icomos for this committee. We know that 2 years ago, at the 41st session in Krakow, a decision of referral was given with very specific instruction to the state parties, state party of Azerbaijan, to perform mainly or not only in the area of preservation, the enhancement or improvement of preservation and management. Therefore, from a logical point of view, some sort of OUV must have been established. Otherwise, the committee wouldn't give a verdict for referral. And therefore, we feel that there is a great inconsistency in reaching a conclusion for non-inscription. This is the first point. The second point I wish to point out is that the state party of Azerbaijan has been, for the past 2 years, taking a great deal of actions in performing just what is asked, what they were asked at the Krakow committee, and they, in fact, issued 2 presidential decrees to ensure the preservation and the management improvement actions. These Icomos, I understand, acknowledge the reception of those action plans. And therefore, we feel that this inconsistency is the major issue and I echo the distinguished colleagues of Kuwait, and to an extent also our Angola colleague mentioning, whether we are talking about the same file. Of course, we were, in fact, talking about the same file. Azerbaijan never raised a different file in this regard. So, therefore, the inconsistency is the major issue that we feel that should be dealt with. And we support the recommendation, the amendment of the recommendation led by Kuwait. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bahrain, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have reviewed Icomos' evaluation with particular attention, as we yet again face a situation where a clear difference of opinion on the values of a proposed site is presented between the advisory body and the state party. We note and appreciate the scientific merit of the evaluation, and would also like to emphasize our commitment as committee members to respect decisions of previous committees, in this case, Decision 41-COM 8B20, which we also perceive as falling short of providing clear guidelines to the state party to ensure all requirements for inscriptions are met before a decision on the list is adopted. Nevertheless, the state party has fulfilled the requirements laid out in that decision, and we would ask that the floor is given to the state party to outline the positive measures taken in this regard to members of the committee. As we have all experienced during our time here in Azerbaijan, the state party's commitment in preserving cultural heritage is not questioned, and we trust that the recommendations adopted by this committee will be fulfilled by the state party in conformity with its obligation to the World Heritage Convention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brazil, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We would like to thank Icomos for its report, which we have attentively reviewed with the experts from the Brazilian National Heritage Institute. There are certainly relevant points in this report that would merit clarifications from the state party, but its main argument is that the property should not be inscribed on the World Heritage List due to lack of additional information to evidence its OUV and to the fact that its integrity and authenticity have been affected by past and recent developments and restorations. It may be important to also consider different views on this matter. Professor Pietro Laureano of the Ipogea Traditional Knowledge Research Center of Florence has led an international team of specialists that ascertained that the historic city of Sheki has retained its original aesthetic qualities, integrating new cultural and regional impacts from the 18th to the 19th century, whilst preserving the urban morphology and traditional construction types. In fact, approximately 80% of the buildings in the nominated area have been preserved. The Brazilian experts who analyzed the nomination file have emphasized the fact that, as Icomos points out, Sheki's architectural and urban testimony is very homogeneous when compared to other settlements in the wider region, which in itself distinguishes Sheki as a unique architectural landmark in the Silk Road. We understand, however, that these are not the questions that need to be discussed here. In its 41st session, this committee decided to refer the nomination back to the state party in order to further advance conservation and preservation mechanisms with a view for their better implementation. As was explained on the first day of this session, a referral is granted when the requirements concerning outstanding universal value, integrity, and authenticity are met, but there remains the need for a limited amount of minor or supplementary additional information to be supplied by the state party. We believe that this has been attended by the state party by means of 2 years of work on a thorough action plan for conservation and rehabilitation of the area, which addresses the requirements of Decision 41-COM 8B20, as the delegation of Azerbaijan will be certainly glad to explain in detail. If this committee is to be consistent with its own decisions, it cannot at this point refuse inscription of the site on the basis of information that the state party was not asked to provide. For this reason, the Brazilian delegation has decided to co-sponsor the amendment of Kuwait in favor of inscription of the site on the World Heritage List. Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Indonesia, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Indonesia would like to join other members of the committee in recalling the committee decision adopted in Krakow in 2017, which decided referral status for the historic center of Sheki with the Khan Palace in order to further advance conservation and preservation mechanism with a view for better implementation. Referral status implies that the nomination has met comparative analysis, integrity, authenticity, and the criteria as set out by Icomos in its checklist for recommendation. Considering this, in our opinion, the state party is not obliged to provide new information with regard to the potential significance of the site, unless it is stated in the previous decision, which is not. In addition, paragraph 3 of the decision 41,8p20 read as follows that recommend the state party to prepare the action plan for conservation and preservation of the nominated property in close consultation with the World Heritage Center and Icomos. So the recommendation for the state party is only to prepare the action plan, which has been submitted by the state party on 30 January 2019, as mentioned in the advisory body report. While paragraph 4 of the decision convey encouragement for the state party to consider several other suggestions to improve the management of the property. Indonesia would like to commend the committee to be consistent with its decision, since inconsistency will impair the credibility of this August committee. Within this background, Mr. Chairperson, Indonesia is of the view that the not to inscribe evaluation by the advisory body is incorrect and irrelevant. Indonesia would like to support the amendment proposed by Kuwait and other committee members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tanzania, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Tanzania commends both the state party and the Icomos for the patience and endurance while working on this time-consuming nomination of Sheki Historic Town. It is, however, very unfortunate that the results we see now are not to our expectations and not very awarding. Chair, the question of putting up a list of World Heritage is not only precious, but also an honor to this committee. Tanzania feels depressed because of what has been presented before us. The year before last year, in Krakow, Poland, a decision by this committee was to refer the nomination to the state party for an affirmative finalization on the advancement of conservation and the preservation mechanisms, preparation of action plan for the conservation and the preservation of the nominated site. It is the understanding of this delegation that whatever was done by design or by default was done in good faith and guided by the 3 pillars of criteria, authenticity, and the management in view of the technical knowledge available at that particular time. Chair, our delegation wants to ask a simple question that we think, if responded to, it will probably enlighten us on the reality, and probably it will help our delegation to understand the cause route to the 4 status that has been presented before us. Chair, assuming a site without any outstanding universal value finds itself on the World Heritage List, whether by design or by default or by human error, what will be the tangible or intangible impact or threat or harm to that particular site, or to the national community and its socio-economic plans, or to the international community, particularly the state parties, or to the local, national, and the regional beneficiaries of this property. If there is no threat, why should we labor on our own makings, our own mistakes, and our own imperfections? This situation could have been avoided by remaining on where a referral as per decision of the committee. Chair, let us be guided by our own developed and approved guidelines to avoid personalization of our action. Chair, I submit.
Thank you. La délégation de la Tunisie, avec la parole. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. Je crois que nous sommes devant un dossier important, non seulement pour le déroulement de cette session, mais je crois pour l'ensemble des sessions que ce comité a organisées jusque-là. C'est pour ça, Madame la Présidente, au nom de la délégation de Tunisie, je ne parlerai pas du site qui est proposé à l'inscription, et je reviendrai, et je crois que les enregistrements sont disponibles, à une intervention que j'avais faite lors de la 42e session, et je dirai probablement mot pour mot ce que j'ai dit dans le cadre de cette session à l'occasion d'un autre dossier. Quel est le pouvoir de ce comité? Ce comité, selon sa convention et selon ses règles de procédure, peut décider de trois choses. Il peut décider d'inscrire, de renvoyer ou de différer. Le cas qui nous intéresse aujourd'hui fait l'objet depuis 2 ans d'une décision de renvoi. Pour une clarté, pour toutes les personnes qui nous suivent, je vais vous lire ce que veut dire renvoyer. L'article 159 nous dit « Les propositions que le comité décide de renvoyer à l'État partie pour complément d'information peuvent être à nouveau présentées au comité ». Le même article termine par nous dire « Une proposition renvoyée qui n'est pas présentée au comité dans les 3 ans suivants est considérée comme une nouvelle soumission et une nouvelle proposition ». Nous ne sommes pas dans ce cas-là. L'État partie est revenu vers le comité dans le laps de temps de ces 3 ans. Ça veut dire que la première décision court toujours. Ce dossier fait l'objet d'un renvoi. Je ne rentrerai pas dans les considérations spécifiques ni techniques. Vous savez quel est le respect que l'on doit à la connaissance et au savoir scientifique des organes consultatifs. Nous l'avons démontré tout le long de cette session et des précédentes. Je me demande, je crois que nous avons un système juridique qui nous lie ici. Et la valeur des systèmes juridiques ne vaut que par la prévisibilité de leur application. Un système non prévisible n'est pas un système qui garantit une sécurité juridique. Et les États parties sont en droit d'exiger que le comité garantisse cette sécurité juridique. Or, si aujourd'hui, et nonobstant les arguments scientifiques auxquels on peut consentir par moment, mais ce n'est pas là le problème. Nous sommes dans la phase où l'État partie est revenu en situation de renvoi. Comment pourrions-nous, sans nous déjuger nous-mêmes, j'étais assis au siège de la Tunisie pour la 41e session, comment, sans nous déjuger, on revient et on va dire que l'on ne va pas, on revient à un niveau juridique en deçà. Cela me permet de dire que ce comité ne peut pas fonctionner d'une session à une autre comme une cour d'appel de ses propres décisions. Il y a une stabilité, il y a une prévisibilité, il y a une cohérence à nos décisions. La Tunisie se réserve le droit de revenir à discuter les éléments propres de ce dossier lorsqu'on aura clarifié cela. Il y a un enjeu, à mon avis, important de cohérence de nos propres décisions. Merci beaucoup.
Merci infiniment. Kyrgyzstan, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We would also like to join to the amendment proposed by Kuwait, and we will not repeat what was already have been said here, but we would like just to highlight a couple of moments. First, we are also in a position that committee should be in consistency with its own decisions, And therefore, as we had already a referral, so then we should go further. Secondly, we are also of strong view that proposed property meets cultural criteria. I will mention only one, and that Sheki, together with Tbilisi, Derbent, Ganja, is on the Silk Road, and this part of the Silk Road has even two dimensions. One is the connection of the land route with maritime routes, which goes through from Caspian to Black Sea. And the second dimension is that this region is part of a northern Silk Road, which goes further to the north. And third point, that there is a different view of Icomos experts and Icomos report and the state party on the state of conservation of the historic, architectural, and urban fabric. The state party's report says that about 72 of all buildings have preserved their historical character, and of which 26% has just a minor changes. And I think we should ask the state party give us a little bit more information on the status of the action plan, of its legal status, and maybe that will give us more information and ground for the decision. Thank you.
Thank you. My dear colleagues, we have still 8 speakers inscribed, and our interpreters stay only until 1:15. So I would like you to be very brief in your comments so that we can finish this, the evaluation of this item very soon. Thank you. So I pass the floor to Bosnia. Please, again, be as brief as you can. Thank you.
Yes. We are supporting and co-sponsoring amendment that Sheki should be inscribed on the World Heritage List. And we are very pleased with documents what the state party provided in last period for inscription of Sheki. And then we see some vacuum in procedure in the last 2 years. And then in this reporting and preparing report of the advisory body, and be very useful that we hear state party to give us more explanation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Uganda, very briefly, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The delegation of Uganda joins like-minded delegations to share with our distinguished host of the Republic of Azerbaijan the anxiety of anticipating inscription of the historic center of Sheki with the Khan's Palace to the World Heritage List. Madam Chair, my delegation has looked at the outcome of the scrutiny of the nomination file as guided by the operational guidelines for implementation of the World Heritage Convention. We observe that the technical note by Icomos, front-running draft decision 43.com.8b.36 raised doubts on the sufficiency of detail of the maps in connection with the narrative of the history and development of the property, therein becoming the basis for questioning the historical accuracy surrounding the property and hence not inscribe it on the World Heritage List. Furthermore, Madam Chair, it is recorded that in accordance with the Decision 41-8B20, adopted at the committee's 41st session in 2017 in Krakow, new information related to the potential significance of the site was supposed to be furnished by the state party, but which shortfall now appears to bolster the penalty of not inscribing the property on the World Heritage List. Madam Chair, my delegation is utterly concerned as to whether Icomos completely exhausted the synergies of requesting for the additional information from the state party, alongside consulting its own thematic and relevant international studies. A draft amendment is in place, and my delegation is associated with it. I rest my case, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. My dear colleagues, time is running out and maybe interpreters will be running away for lunch, so please be brief. Norway.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are an expert committee. These experts should decide and take the final decision because of their cumulative scientific knowledge. Politics between organizations and states parties should not come into the forefront in individual cases and preclude our decision-making. It puts the committee in a difficult position. We make policy and standard-setting decisions in many cases, and all our decisions matter for the future. This convention has become what it is because we are building stone by stone, sometimes having to turn some of the stones, sometimes realizing that the stones don't fit. This allows us to learn from unfortunate or ill-guided decisions, adjust and improve. Yet, we find ourselves again in a situation where it's hard to find a way out. Although this committee last year reiterated that OUV is only recognized at the time of inscription, the previous decision in this case is argued to preempt the outcome of future decisions. This puts not only the committee, but also the nominating state party in a difficult position. We are convinced we can do better in the future, and we wish to again appreciate and commend Azerbaijan's strong commitment in reforming the nomination process to allow for early and strengthened dialogue, improved guidance, further sharing of experience and knowledge, as well as focused capacity building. This will contribute towards more mature nominations with a shared and agreed understanding of what we are nominating, and ultimately fewer deviations and improved decision-making. In this regard, we also wish to recall the evaluation of the global strategy and the PACT initiative from 2011. And Norway continuously has to remind itself of the many well-founded recommendations therein concerning the committee and its conduct. The records from 2017 describe, and I quote, a referral on the basis of criteria 2 and 3, while the decision itself was without clear guidance. And we see that there is a significant discrepancy between the evaluation presented just before and the sentiments expressed by other members in relation to this nomination. Norway appreciates the efforts of the state party in implementing the previous decision, but we must emphasize that the very core of this nomination, its proposed statement of OUV, as per the amended draft decision proposing criteria 2 and 5, is not evaluated on its individual merits. Hence, we feel left in a vacuum, and we see at this point that we must support the draft decision. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Zimbabwe, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. In the interest of time, Zimbabwe is supporting and co-sponsoring the amendment made by Kuwait and others on the draft decision. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Burkina, you have the floor.
Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente. Et répondant à votre appel, je dirais que la délégation du Burkina Faso est dans un état d'esprit où il soutient la proposition d'amendement du Koweït. Je vous remercie.
Merci infiniment. España, con la palabra, por favor, que Sí. Piensen en el tiempo.
Sí.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias, presidenta. Intentaremos ser lo más breve posible, pero como comprenderá, nuestra delegación se siente obligada a intervenir. Como ya dijimos el primer día, nuestro país decidió retirar la candidatura después de un informe muy negativo por parte de Icomos y que nosotros considerábamos que era una candidatura absolutamente sólida científicamente y que podíamos haber debatido hoy aquí como se está debatiendo esta candidatura. Esto lo hicimos como el resto de los países que habían tenido también un proyecto de no inscripción y ahora nos vemos en una situación en la que estamos debatiendo una candidatura que proviene de un no inscripción. En ese sentido, la verdad es que nos sentimos decepcionados. Creo que es un ejemplo perfecto de falta de credibilidad de la Convención y instamos a que se apruebe ese código de conducta que dijimos el primer día, que nos afecta a todos, como dijimos, tanto al centro como a este comité, como a todos los estados que estamos aquí presentes. Y, por lo tanto, como esto es una gota de agua en el desierto, porque estamos seguros de que con esta intervención no vamos a conseguir nada, lo que sí que pedimos, por favor, es que el código de conducta se apruebe lo antes posible para que todos juguemos con las mismas reglas. Muchísimas gracias, presidenta.
Muchísimas gracias. Hungary, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The State Party has been made a huge work on the nomination of the property Sheki for many years and also again made its efforts to meet the commitments, its commitment regarding the recommendation of the committee decision taken in 2017. Icomos was of the opinion both times this nomination reached the committee that it did not have authenticity and integrity and did not meet any of the criteria either and proposed it not to be inscribed on the World Heritage List. However, the property was referred back to the State Party, and so this case shows once again that there is an urgent need for the review of the referral mechanism. Maybe the role of the Bureau could be corroborated in the evaluation process in the future. But for now, taking into consideration all circumstances, we support this nomination to be inscribed on the World Heritage List.
Thank you very much. Guatemala, con la palabra.
Gracias, señora presidenta. Agradecemos la nominación y toda la información adicional proveída por el Estado parte en respuesta a la decisión adoptada en Cracovia, así como la evaluación realizada por Icomos. Gracias a la documentación detallada es posible identificar la relevancia del sitio, así como los valores históricos y culturales del lugar. Entendemos que el Estado parte ha atendido todas las recomendaciones incluidas en la decisión de este comité. Coincidimos con las intervenciones de los distinguidos delegados de Kuwait, Angola y otros sobre los aspectos del procedimiento de nominación que estamos examinando, especialmente en cuanto a la coherencia y continuidad en las actuaciones de este comité que han sido claramente expresadas por el distinguido delegado de Túnez. Consideramos todos los aspectos debatidos en esta reunión y con el objetivo de actuar coherentemente con otras decisiones que se han adoptado históricamente por este comité. Guatemala está de acuerdo con la propuesta de enmienda y apoyamos la inscripción de este sitio en la lista de patrimonio. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias. Australia, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, and I apologise perhaps for lack of brevity here, but there's some important things that need to be said. Australia deeply regrets the circumstances in which we find ourselves as a committee returning to the Sheki nomination and well appreciate the difficulty this causes us collectively and for Azerbaijan. No state party should be placed in this situation again. In 2017, the nomination was recommended not for inscription. None of the proposed criteria could be justified, though we do note from the record of the meeting and what we recall of the discussion that some committee members at the time saw the nomination as potentially having outstanding universal value. As we all know, properties on the World Heritage List must have all three pillars of OUV justified. In 2017, the committee referred the nomination but unfortunately gave no guidance to the state party that it should provide further evidence to justify the potential OUV of the property or undertake further comparative analysis to demonstrate how the property can be considered exceptional. Instead, the referral decision focused solely on management and protection issues, and we note that the state party has faithfully complied with this decision. The draft decision in front of the committee today again has the recommendation that the property should not be inscribed. We agree that, unfortunately, this is the appropriate recommendation given that no further evidence to justify the potential OUV has been provided to Icomos, and due to the decision to refer the nomination, Icomos was not able to undertake a mission to the property. Icomos therefore has not been in a position to reassess the potential significance of the property, nor to reconsider the recommendation of its first evaluation. It is not reasonable to transfer onto Icomos the responsibility for the consequences of the committee's Krakow decision. It did what it was required to do under the operational guidelines. As this case illustrates, committee decisions to defer or refer a nomination without clear guidance on requirements for justifying OUV create a challenging situation for the state party, the committee and the advisory bodies. Here, we again draw the committee's attention to our decision 42.8 adopted in Bahrain, which states that OUV is recognised at the time of inscription of a property on the World Heritage List. The committee is not bound to continue a progression of previous decisions on nominations, but must make decisions based on current evidence. A decision to either defer or refer a nomination cannot be a guarantee of inscription in the future, but provides the state party with an opportunity to present to the committee with a revised nomination. In our opening intervention on General Item 8, we spoke in more detail about our concerns about past decision-making and our confidence that the nomination process reform now before the committee will yield real improvements to uphold the credibility and integrity of both the World Heritage List and the deliberations of this committee. We in particular thank Azerbaijan for its leadership in the reform process as chair of the ad hoc working group, where it has been a strong guiding voice for reforms that will strengthen the technical foundations of the Convention through improved dialogue with the advisory bodies. Better process will deliver better outcomes.
Thank you very much. St. Kitts, could you please be as brief as possible? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll be very brief. St. Kitts and Nevis recognises the significance of the historic centre of Sheki with the Khan's Palace submitted by the State Party of Azerbaijan. We note the comments and concerns expressed, so we won't be going over those by previous speakers, and as a result, we support the general consensus of opinion with regards to inscription of the site on the World Heritage List. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I would ask the delegation of Azerbaijan if there are any comments they want to bring to us, to our knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to thank the committee members for their position and the questions that they asked. Let me give you a bit background of the situation. The nomination has been worked, the dossier has been worked for 6 years by the team of experts of local and international. In 2016, it was submitted to for the evaluation to the Center and the Icomos. In 2017, there was a discussions on this issue in Krakow, and many colleagues referred to this decision. Here I would like to thank the Icomos for their recommendation that was produced in Krakow. Actually, although we disagree with the scientific evaluation of the Icomos, but we strongly agree with the Icomos evaluation when it comes to the conservation, management, monitoring and preservation of the site. And the committee which discussed this issue in the Icomos agreed on the value of the site, but recommended for the referral, given those recommendations reflected in the Icomos decision. So we took these recommendations as much as we can in a very serious manner. The colleagues mentioned here the presidential's decree, just to show you the seriousness and the commitment of Azerbaijan to fulfill the requirements and recommendations of the Icomos in its first recommendation. Their special management team was established according to these recommendations, State Tourism Agency. The special budget and staff was allocated to strengthen the management of the site. Apart from that, we have invited international experts in this field to help us, the state party, in responding, in addressing the recommendations of the Krakow decision. In that sense, the restoration manual and action plan was adopted by the state tourism agency. And here I would like to come back to the Icomos report saying that these documents have no legal value, which is not true. Why? Because when it was already submitted as an additional information to the Icomos, it has already endorsed and started to be implemented by the state agency. Many colleagues refer to the legal gap. I do agree that there is a legal gap and trap that Azerbaijan, the committee members, have fallen into. And I don't want to blame here the Icomos for this trap. But what we are concerned most is that during this period when this Krakow decision was discussed and when we had the communication with the World Heritage Center and the Icomos, we haven't been informed that there should be a potential trap for state party without having any provisions regarding the potential OEV. And apart from that, on top of that, I should say that when additional information provided by Azerbaijan, during the 5 months of period, Icomos neither contacted us nor sent any information that there is a legal trap that you may provide an additional information which can testify to the OEV. So there was also any attempt for the communication from the Icomos to ask the state party to provide this additional information. So my country, with this in mind, I think, with all information that was already said, my country is sparing no effort to chair the ad hoc group and to introduce the mechanisms which can prevent in the future the state parties to fall into this kind of difficulties that we are facing. And I appreciate the countries that raise this issue, that we need to be consistency with the decision that was taken beforehand. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would pass the floor to Icomos for some brief comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Icomos would agree that this is a procedurally very complex issue. And just to clarify Icomos's role, which is to assess the information that is provided to us by the state party, which was first the nomination in 2016, and then later the supplementary information in 2019, which is what we have done. And recalling Decision 42-8, which has already been mentioned by the Honourable Delegate from Australia, this was clarification by the legal advisor on the meaning of referral, which set out very clearly that outstanding universal value is recognised at the time of inscription of a site on the World Heritage List and not prior to that stage. In other words, when a site is referred, that does not mean that OUV has been recognised. And Icomos considers that the decision made at the 41st session was not helpful to the state party, as it did not make clear that the property had not met outstanding universal value. And the state party was not specifically requested to supply justification for outstanding universal value, as has just been indicated. So Icomos did not have the opportunity to reassess its initial evaluation in relation to outstanding universal value. And as we have suggested in our presentation, we do consider that this is a difficult issue that does lead to the need for the operationalization of the referral process to be reconsidered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would now ask our rapporteur to present the draft decision.
Madame la
Me
Présidente.
desculpe, Angola, por favor.
Estás desculpada. On avait posé des questions. On avait besoin de ces réponses pour que nous puissions nous positionner. Donc, deux choses très rapidement, de manière très brève. Tout d'abord, pour une question de cohérence, l'État partie a soumis des documents qui lui ont été demandés et nous avons reçu des copies. Pour une question de cohérence, l'État partie a accompli avec ce qu'il devrait faire à la lumière de la décision qui a été prise à Cracovie. Donc nous sommes tout à fait d'accord que le bien soit inscrit. Deuxième chose, il y a un problème des procédures sur lesquelles nous devons revenir. Peut-être il faudra qu'on mette peut-être en place un groupe de travail. Donc on a des difficultés par rapport aux orientations. La Convention donne un certain nombre d'éléments. Si on parle de renvoi, qu'est-ce qu'il faut que l'État partie fournisse en termes d'éléments? Mais en écoutant les échanges ici, c'est comme s'il y avait d'autres pièces qui manquaient. Donc, on a besoin de réviser les orientations et les rendre plus claires pour que les gens sachent si le dossier est renvoyé. Donc, il n'a pas de VUE. Donc, s'il n'a pas de VUE, est-ce qu'il faut remettre un autre dossier, retravailler? C'est-à-dire, il faut qu'on soit clair. Peut-être là, l'Angola aimerait que peut-être un groupe de travail soit mis en place pour affiner un peu les orientations concernant les renvois, les différés, etc. Je vous remercie, Madame la Présidente.
Merci beaucoup. Nous avons pris note de votre suggestion. Merci infiniment. Tanzania.
Thank you, Chair. This delegation would like to note the additional explanations provided by Azerbaijan, and we therefore support the draft decision by Kuwait, whereby we wanted to inscribe the property on the World Heritage List.
Thank you very much. Now I would... Sorry. Que me disculpen los amigos cubanos, por favor.
Gracias, señora presidenta. En primer lugar, queríamos expresar que Cuba considera que tanto el órgano consultivo como el Estado parte han hecho su trabajo. Y eso es lo que debemos reconocer. No queremos ver en ninguna forma de juzgar tanto el cumplimiento de la decisión por parte del Estado parte como el trabajo del órgano consultivo. Creo que si en algún caso tendríamos que revisar es el propio comité en cuanto a las decisiones que adoptamos y particularmente las anteriores que han llevado a esta situación. Algunos Estados parte, algunos miembros del comité se han hecho referencia a el hecho de la importancia y la claridad de aprobar el valor universal excepcional en el momento de la inscripción. Sin embargo, la propia interpretación de la Convención, cuando hablamos de la devolución de los expedientes a los Estados parte, pues se ha hecho casi que habitual la visión de que es una forma de complementar una nominación, pero que estamos dando de algún modo un reconocimiento a un valor universal excepcional. Creo que por ahí andan las valoraciones que nos han llevado a esta situación. Cuba considera que en estos momentos creo que lo más lógico y prudente es la inscripción del sitio. Gracias.
Thank you very much. I think I don't see any more comments. I think we can ask the rapporteur to present us the draft decision with its amendments. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As flagged, we've received amendments formally from Kuwait, China, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kyrgyzstan, Zimbabwe, Uganda, Tunisia and Brazil, but supported from many others on the floor. Paragraph 2 would read, recalling Decision 41-COM 8B20, adopted at its 41st session, Krakow 2017, inscribes the historic centre of... Paragraph 3 would read, inscribes the historic centre of Sheki with the Khan's Palace, Azerbaijan, on the World Heritage List on the basis of criteria 2 and 5. The next paragraph would now takes note of the provisional statement of outstanding universal value, which follows. paragraph 5 then reads, recommends the state party to give consideration to the following. A, revise and adopt the management plan of the Historic Centre of Sheki. B, prepare and adopt the conservation master plan for the property. C, define guidelines for residential house restoration and prepare planning instruments, regeneration urban plan, to incentivise private participation in this process. And I'd just like to point out that as the rapporteur, I have changed the language in the amendment given for planning instruments. It said plan of instruments, but my understanding that the correct interpretation from the French is planning instruments, but I'd just like to confirm I've made that change. And the fourth point, ensure the monitoring of all processes of urban rehabilitation by the site management team. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Rapporteur. The Secretariat has asked the floor. Please go on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it would be worthy to understand from the state party that put forward the amendment whether their intent is to inscribe the site as a cultural landscape or not, because when we read the statement of criterion 5, it will appear that the site is presented as such, and in this case, paragraph 3 should include mention that is inscribed as a cultural landscape. So maybe you may wish to ask the state parties that put forward this amendment whether the site should be inscribed as a cultural landscape.
Thank you very much. Australia?
A small but important point, Madam Chair, and just to be clear, there is a very strong mood in the room for inscription, and Australia certainly will not go against the mood of the room. But just at the end, on a number of other decisions where we've made inscriptions, we have required or requested the state party to come back with a report on their progress in implementing the recommendations of the committee. So I would suggest that we should similarly add a last amendment here, which would ask the state party of Azerbaijan to report back to the committee on progress in implementing the identified requests.
Kuwait, you have the floor.
Just answering the question from Secretariat, should be cultural heritage.
Well, thank you all very much. The last paragraph has been added. I thank you for all your comments. And at this point, I think we, with great pleasure, can declare Decision 43-8B36 approved. Congratulations. I would also like to extend to the delegation of Azerbaijan the congratulations of all committee members and pass the floor to the delegation of Azerbaijan. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. First of all, I would like to thank the committee members, the Icomos and the World Heritage Center for the cooperation. Without you, we cannot, it will not be possible for us to understand the problems, the shortcomings that we've been facing and do our homework within these last 2 years. Sheki for us is not only a testimony of the city located on the Silk Road, it is also one of the remaining historical cities in Azerbaijan. The second one is Baku, which is already inscribed into World Heritage List. So with your decision, with your help, I think it is another contribution to preserve this unique historical center, which suffered a lot from the natural disasters, from the conflicts, from the invasions. So thank you very much for this support, and thank you very much for your understanding. Now I give the floor to our Minister of Culture.
Excellencies, on behalf of the government of Azerbaijan, I would like to thank you for the decision taken, and I would apply with the readiness of the government of Azerbaijan to implement all necessary requirements which were put in front of us by the advisory body, were dedicated to the cooperation and very strong coordination of our activity within the frame of this inscription with Icomos and all others. We would highly appreciate the support from your side. The government of Azerbaijan, the leadership of Azerbaijan, His Excellency President and the first Vice President delivered to us the obligation to ensure you of the full awareness of Azerbaijan to fulfill the requirements of the international community on this matter. Thank you very much to all the members of the committee and the experts for the great support of the Sheki. Today, Sheki will celebrate the day of happiness. Thank you very much.
Hörmətli xanım səfir, xanımlar və cənablar, mən bugün UNESCO-nun Ümumdünya İrs Komitəsinin Azərbaycan tərəfindən müzakirəyə çıxarılan Xan Sarayı ilə birgə Şəkinin tarixi mərkəzi faylına səs verən komitə üzvlərinə və bu işdə əməyi olan hər kəsə Şəkillərin adından xüsusi təşəkkürümü bildirirəm. Şəki qədim və tarixi şəhərdir. Bu şəhərin tarixi simasının qorub saxlamaq məqsədi ilə dövlətimiz tərəfindən bir çox sərəncamlar verilmişdir. Şəkinin qorub hissəsini yerləşən Şəki Xan Sarayı, kərvansalar, qədim körpülər, məçidlər, yaşayış evləri təkcə xalqımıza deyil, bütün bəşəriyyətin zəngin mədəni irsi hesab olunur. Mən şəhər rəhbəri kimi bildirmək istəyirdim. Bütün bəşəriyyətə məxsus olan bu mədəni irs bundan sonra qorunub saxlanacaq və UNESCO-nun Ümumdünya İrs Komitəsinin bütün tövsiyələri nəzərə alacaq. Mən bir daha sizə xüsusi minnətdarı bildirirəm və bizim gözəl Şəkiyə dəvət edirəm. Təşəkkür edirəm.
I would pass the floor now to the director of the World Heritage Center, who has an announcement to make. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Because of the delay this morning, we will start the afternoon session at 3:15. So you have time for lunch. And we have at 2 o'clock the working group on the revision of the operational guidelines. And also we have the third cycle of the exercise of periodic reporting for the Asia-Pacific region. And Icomos has the Icomos 2020 General Assembly presentation in room B3. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We shall resume the session at 3:15. Thank you very much.